Hello, everyone. This is Mike Naraki, the director of Pistachio.
And I am Kevin Gamble, the producer of Pistachio.
And this is our brand new open. This is very exciting. We've had the same open for probably 12 to, 17 years if you count the original open, which we just kind of re-rendered about 12 years ago. So this is a whole new open.
And it's available and we're looking at it right now on a widescreen monitor, so you can see a whole cast of veggie characters.
Yep. I think we got 13 of them on there.
If you can't see 13, then you should tell your parents to buy a bigger television. No, I'm sure it's fine, the one you have.
Hey, but this one is, we wanted to, with the new open, we wanted to make it similar enough to where, people wouldn't look at it and say, what is this? I've never seen this before in my life, and I don't recognize the song. But then have it different enough where it looked fresh and new and fun. So, I think it looks fun. And we actually made it a little shorter too. It was about 2 minutes and 20 seconds, and now it's about a minute shorter than that. So, I just think it's just shorter and peppier and a lot of fun, and we've got everybody joining in.
My favorite part is the little breathy. His VeggieTales. It's frantic. It's the frantic song. It's awesome and exciting and fun. And it sets you up for the beginning of our new show.
Oh, and here we go.
Where's the countertop?
There it is. It's extreme redo. We can't see it yet. It's going to be new. Originally with this, we were thinking, okay, we're going to do new open, so it might be kind of fun to really update the countertop and just give the whole countertop a complete redo. And of course, I'm a big fan of Extreme Makeover Home Edition.
Sure.
I love watching that, and so we decided to spoof on that a little bit. And
but
redo the kitchen. And it's funny because originally we came up with brand new kitchen designs, and the more that we looked at it, the more we thought, wow, we don't want to have something so different that people just feel completely out of place in the kitchen. So
obsidian countertops and Kohler fixtures.
Yeah, exactly. Don't want to go too fancy on this. So you know what? Let's just paint the walls and add a throw pillow,
which is actually works well.
Yeah, it works well with the spoof here.
Allows Bob to set up for his fun reaction. Bob's actually a bit of a dour Debbie in this episode. He's a little.
Well, he's Bob is a creature of habit, so he likes things the way they are, and.
Can I say this is my third VeggieTales project I've had the pleasure of working on, and Mike Naraki is Larry the Cucumber. He is that fun and that energetic and that exciting, and it's not a stretch. That's him.
Thank you, Kevin.
It's just like, this is great. Look at this is awesome. Hey, what's over here? Whee! It's so fun to work with these guys. It's been an absolute thrill.
Oh, thanks, man. Oh, and here's our big change for the countertop. Rather than a big kitchen makeover, we've replaced QWERTY, who originally, I believe, was based off an IBM 386, maybe not even a 386, maybe it was a 286.
Compy 286.
Yep, and I think he had a 5 1/4 inch floppy drive, and
Yep.
So we've upgraded him to
couplers. You put the phone in.
Yep. So now he's got a webcam and everything,
and he takes video mail, for goodness sakes. I mean, look at this.
Yeah, look at that cute kid right there. Who is
could
that
have made
kid?
such a cute child, Mike Naraki? This is another secret of VeggieTales, is that all the cast is the people around the office because we're very frugal. So
right. It's like, yeah, it's frugal.
So.
But we just thought it would be fun to replace the letters that Bob and Larry get with, enter the 21st century and send video mail.
I can't wait to see if some other kids out there actually send in video letters to Bob and Larry.
We would actually love to do that, is actually set something up to where Bob and Larry can answer actual questions from kids coming in on video mail.
That'd be so great.
Yep. All right, so here we go.
Bob should have a blog.
Yeah. The Tomato Times. Wait.
Oh, wait.
This is you right here. You're the pizza guy.
Excuse me, pizza. It doesn't mean anything. Excuse my pizza. So stupid.
Well, when you're walking down with a pizza, you got to be careful.
Like Naraki saying, "Hey, be an Italian guy. Say something funny." I don't.
You're Italian, right?
I'm part Italian. Yeah, I'm a Canadian, and so this is I moved to America about 2 years ago, and I worked. My first VeggieTales show was the was with you, was the Minnesota Cuke Show.
Minnesota Cuke Show,
with Brian Roberts on St. Nick, and then on this. So the first show was myself and the superstar producer J. Chris Wall. We worked on those first two shows together. Yep. And this one was all me, which is why I'm sitting here. Wow! Oh, that was funny.
Yeah, the fun little paintings in here. We kind of just wanted to bring these paintings to life a little bit, so we just did a little animation. Joe Spataford just did the Photoshop elements for this, and then Brian Roberts animated the individual pieces just so we could have some life to the paintings, and it saved us some time on overall animation.
Yeah, like the original was just like we'd pan over the paintings. We're like, this is kind of boring. Let's try to add some fun in here. And just, I love when the brothers open their eyes and the blink, like, what? We get down and see? It's just really funny.
The ducks are fun. Originally,
so adorable.
What we wanted to do story-wise was take from the original story of Pinocchio, which is a book by Carlo Collodi in the 1870s, is when it was written. Of course, there's been several adaptations done of that story over the years, but we went back to the source and we wanted to take that lesson, which was really in the original book about parental love, and really draw on the idea of listening to your parents, honoring your parents, obeying your parents, and then parallel it with the biblical parable of the lost sheep, which you'll see that coming up. But to do that, we needed Gelato to have other kind of kid characters, and so we just thought ducks would be a great way to go. Chuck Vollmer, actually one of the concept artists on this show, had a couple pet ducks, just as cute as can be.
That's adorable.
Yeah, and he suggested,
hey, what is that
scorpion? Do you have a pet scorpion?
It's a terrible pet.
Yeah, scorpion. I don't know. I'm trying to picture this with scorpions right here, and I don't think it would quite work.
That would be the worst
Khalil
dance
would be,
number ever.
Cricket would be extremely
Everybody in
terrified
town
with scorpions.
The whole town is running in terror. Why do you keep those things as pets? They're terrible pets. Oh, my scorpions are lovely. No. I'm sure somebody has a pet scorpion. I've seen them in pet stores, and I just think, who wants that? They're absolutely terrifying.
The cute factor just isn't there with scorpions.
They're not.
It's just
The
there.
chicken in that shot is particularly cute. He has like a wonky eye. I love
know,
that.
he's the
He's
crazy
sitting there
chicken.
like, I make eggs. So this song was written by you, and
this song was written by Mark Steele.
Oh, Mark Steele.
Yeah,
yes,
Mark
yes,
Steele.
yes.
So what we did, we developed the
lovely Mark
story. Yeah, we had a great development team on this, and then we gave Mark an outline and said, "Hey, Mark, what do you think of this outline?" And he really loved it. And then he wrote the story and a number of the songs in it. He just did a great job. So it's been a great time working with Mark on this.
Cool.
Would I? But I can't.
And that's
I've only got
That's
Palgrave
Parcheesi.
hardware.
part of the fun of this show too is just all of the Italian-esque names that are just
Espresso, Dorito.
Espresso, Dorito, Parcheesi, Gelato.
You're absolutely free, huh?
And then, of course, Cricket, who is actually a caterpillar.
Except this piece of
So that's a lot of fun.
To make it's the parallel of the classic Collodi
Yep.
tale.
And actually, the wood in here, it's interesting, if you've watched, earlier animated version of the story of Pinocchio.
From a nameless animation company.
That's right. The birth of Pinocchio was quite different from the actual book. And obviously, Geppetto, made this toy, and then, one
Comes to
night it
life.
came to life. In the original book, this is much more like It Happens, where you have this really animated piece of wood that Geppetto gets and carves, so that it's already inherent in the toy itself.
That's what they say when carvers carve stone. They say that it's all you're doing is cutting away the excess stone to release the character inside. So we're sort of highlighting here. I think that Pistachio is inside this log all along. He just needs to be all the excess wood needs to be cut away to reveal who he is.
To reveal who he is, exactly. So, and I think it works really well, just because he's.
Can I say, as a parent, Gelato, hasn't obviously spent a lot of money on furniture. The poor duck's sleeping in a chest of drawers. He's a frugal man, Gelato.
He's frugal. He's frugal.
He only has 5
That's
pennies
right.
to his name.
That's right. But in a lovely little cottage.
Although I presently live in New York City, and that chest of drawers is about the size of my apartment. So it's pretty close. What number show is this for you? Have you even lost count?
Well, I think we're in the 30s here for original
smokes.
shows, which doesn't come close to say The Simpsons or something. I think they're on 500 or something.
Sure, but they also have 5 million people working on it. Whereas,
And we only do 2 or 3 releases a year, so.
Right.
So
I think this turned out beautifully. This, as we've said before, this past few shows have been animated by a studio in New Zealand called Hoo Hoo Studios, and they've there's such beautiful little stuff put in there with little reactions and little subtle pieces that are just so great.
Yeah, they've done just a fantastic job.
Here the hijinks have begun, where Pistachio has emerged from his wood.
Yep.
And immediately thinks that as a child he knows better than his parents. Which, I will come out and say this is probably exactly what I was at this age.
Well,
I don't need to listen to you, Dad. I know what's best for me.
I know what's best for me.
That's probably one of the reasons I don't have any kids, because I think of raising me and I think, oh, What a nightmare.
Well, I used the parent, we really wanted to get behind that whole idea of parental guidance and just this idea that, the parent has been through a lot more of life and, has more wisdom and obviously loves their child and knows what's best for them. And so that's the reason why they need to honor and obey their parents.
Sure.
And it's great because that's really part of the heart of the original book of Pinocchio. It went a little bit different in Disney's animated version, just because it was kind of more about following your conscience, So it was sort of, Jiminy Cricket, kind of represented, Pinocchio's internal conscience. But it's I found that the original book is probably just has much more of a direct kind of biblical worldview in that sense of this child needs to help be shaped by his parents. He doesn't
who
really
made you
have
has
his own
lessons to
internal
impart.
conscience yet. What's
Yeah.
that?
The person who made you has lessons to impart that you can, it's the circle of life that, your parents will pass on the knowledge they have obtained through their time. And
Yep.
that's why it's so important, not just parents, but grandparents too. They've had that such incredible life experience that
Yep.
I used to love talking to my grandmother because she's seen it all.
Yep.
No problem you can throw at her that she hasn't. Let me tell you about this one.
Yeah, let me tell you about this one. And it's neat too. Just I think as we integrated in with the parable of the lost sheep, which that's a parable that relates God and His love to us as well as that same parental love. And so I think you can look at this for both parent-child parallels and God-man parallels. And I just think it's really I think it works well on both those levels.
Find your way. Hey, Art.
And speaking of parables, here we go. Pass the prodigal. Both of those in the Bible, both those parables appear, very close to each other, and are very similar in many ways. So originally in the original script, we made much more allusion to the parable of the prodigal son, which we did actually with Wizard of Oz. But the more we developed the script and needing to cut time out in certain areas.
And found this story too. It told it all. It was all about doesn't matter if your family is important, and the father, the shepherd, goes. So
that's right.
Yeah, the whole core story is sort of told here.
Yeah, and I found too, like as we started to concentrate more on the parable of the sheep, it just became more clear. We tried to relate a little bit more prodigal in it, but I think as we peeled that back and focused on the lost sheep, it just really clarified the lesson of the story, which is nice.
Oh, here's my first cameo, or my second cameo. That's me chuckling as well.
Good job.
That's right. Thank you. I'm available for voiceover gigs. Call one of my 30 agents.
There's another thing we did with the paintings. We just kind of wanted to add a little bit more interest rather than scanning over a painting.
And
just add a little hops and
totally works. It's just really subtle animation, really something simple, but tells a story. So this is the Tim Hodge plays the voice of Khalil as he's appeared many times before.
Award-winning Tim Hodge. Actually, Tim for the voice of Khalil when we did Jonah, he actually won an Annie Award,
which is like the Animation Superstar Awards every year in Los Angeles. That's he's just about the nicest guy in the world, I would say.
Oh yeah, Tim's fantastic. Yeah, he's great.
You and Tim should have a nice guy off. But you'd both concede the other guy. Please you. No, you win. No
like
one ever
Chippendale.
Wins. Yeah, a tie. I love how there's inside this art gallery, there's a puppet show so parents can go look at art and deposit their kids at the puppet show.
Yeah, we had to do some condensing here.
Yeah.
And I can't remember why we came up with the arts museum as a way. I think it was. It had to do with the parable of the sheep. We needed to.
It's a great way to introduce and say, hey, here's something that relates to you right now as you are as a boy.
Right, so we decided to have him go into a museum to show him the paintings of the parable.
And of course, like any great character, he needs to be led astray.
Yeah, that's right.
And make some poor decisions. But then in the end, of course, as he learns more about himself, so do we too learn about the world around us as viewing the story through his eyes.
That's right.
Who can tell me the population of Luxembourg?
This was a big debate. What are the ducks going to sound like? I remember and Adam Frick, our sound designer, had thrown a bunch of ideas for us. We were worried it would sound like a bunch of goofy guys in a room making duck noises.
We wanted to have an authentic duck.
Yeah, I think it's a combination of guys and ducks and real sounds and
and some sound effect library sounds.
Do your kids enjoy puppet shows? Is there? I know there's a couple here in Franklin, Tennessee, where where VeggieTales is put together. There's a couple of puppet repertoire theaters, I understand.
I actually have not been. I would love to do that.
My goodness,
I've heard
that'd be so
really
much
good
fun.
things about them.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, there's just something I myself have seen, just really cool old marionette shows, and they just have a really great charm to them.
And of course, they're not all run by mean men. So this is
That's right. Yeah.
We're not saying that everyone who runs a puppet show is a meanie. Just this one particular guy.
Yeah, just this one guy whose
Only
name
puppet
is
shows
Calzone,
in
which is
art
another
galleries.
great,
Very funny Italian name.
Great Italian name. Oh, hey, look in the background there. That is an allusion to the prodigal son. You see the guy eating with the pigs?
Oh yeah.
So, yeah, so we have some paintings spread around that, kind of a more prodigal son in nature. And it's fun getting that group of kids together.
Yeah, those are all like this. The gang of the kids of the
Yep,
kids of
there's
the Big Idea
my
crowd.
kids and John Waba's kids and Kurt Heineke's kids.
These kids paid 5 cents for a puppet show, and they've just got ruined. So this wasn't a big setup here. We had to. I know in the script the idea was that Pistachio would come across these coins, and we had to make it very clear that he hadn't stolen these coins.
That's right. Yeah.
He knocked over these coats, and they just fell out. And he obviously wants to return them, doesn't know who they belong to, but now these guys are chasing him, and so he forget about them and runs off.
And he runs off.
That was a big concern.
I was going to say, before we leave here, is this museum was loosely based on the Art Institute in Chicago, just sort of the external and internal.
Where you went to school?
Well, I took some classes at the Art Institute of Chicago, but I went to the University of Illinois, Chicago.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but
You've been educated across America.
across America, at least across Chicago.
I am Confetti, the fox.
But these two characters are fun. Of course, the Scallions always play our bad guys, and here we dressed them up like a cat and a fox, and it's fun just to kind of have these kind of
Silly
obvious
costumes. Yeah.
character costumes. We didn't make them look like a real cat or a real fox. And I just love all the little subtle animation,
Oh,
on
so
the
beautiful.
tails.
The tail, like
yeah.
Have you ever watched the way cats are sort of thinking? It's just constantly sort of shifting in the background.
Yeah.
And they really captured that. There's some shots down on the pier when he's really being insidious, and
Yeah.
and Pistachio is in the cart, and his tail set has a little snap to it.
It just has a little snap,
Oh,
yeah.
here we go.
It's
It's
really
so
nice.
beautiful. Oh, the
Yeah.
guys who they did such a fabulous job.
Yeah, it's great. The cat's tail's a little more static, but yeah, the fox just really is really great.
Maybe the cat's tail is sort of glued on. Remember we had to record because Mike Naraki is also the voice of Peer Into the Cat, and it was that gravelly sort of.
I don't think
We
I
had
can
to do
it now
that
with
one
the
last. It
microphone.
was like the end of the day, we'll do the piano because I'll do this. And after 2 hours of that, it's like,
It's like gargling pebbles.
which you should not do at home.
No,
Whatever you
don't do
do,
that.
don't gargle pebbles.
Yeah, that's
Eat
right.
broccoli.
Yeah, eat broccoli.
Better for you.
So water technology over the years has just really improved. I remember doing Jonah, and just doing the water was so hard.
Yeah.
But just the plugins now to be able to do water have just gotten so much more sophisticated. So doing a 45-minute, 50-minute DVD and having the quality and the beauty of the water that we have in this has just been. It was just so much fun to see when we got the shots in of the ocean. It's like, wow, that looks so cool. I remember the first water we did was back in Larry's Lagoon. That was our second show. That was probably 1994, and it was like this flat, glassy surface.
It's always been a problem in computer graphics to do. I know I started in computer graphics in '97 on a show called Reboot, and we were doing TV when you guys were doing VeggieTales was doing movies. And I think we grew up together. Water has changed so much over the time, and now you look at this show, and like the early VeggieTales water, the early Reboot water was this flat blue, like a sheet of cardboard.
Well, it was enough to just get it reflective. Like,
Yeah.
ooh, cool, it's reflective.
And the rules were you couldn't touch it, you couldn't go in it, you couldn't have it move, you couldn't
Yeah.
drop something in the water. It had to sit there and not it was a whole big production.
Well, I remember Larry's Lagoon. We had this little boat going along, and there was like this sheet of bubble in front of it or something. Yeah, it's just in the original story of Pinocchio, the cat and the fox lead Pinocchio to an empty field, and they convince him that if he buries his gold coins in the field, that a money tree will grow up, and he falls for it, and he plants his trees. He plants his, and then he wanders off. So this is sort of a way to kind of bring that to life, because you can't just it's not very action. Yeah.
5 weeks later,
That's
hey,
right.
It's not tree. This
But
is a
just-
great example.
Just kind of having this carnival.
And everybody's
flavor.
had. I mean, these carnivals go all the way around. the continental U.S. and also Canada as well. Anywhere in the world, like you find those where you throw a dart and pop the balloon and win a 9-cent stuffed animal, and they're terribly fun and they're really enjoyable. But they certainly.
Well, you know what I've found lately is a lot of them guarantee prizes now. It's interesting, yeah. So you don't really even have to win, as long as you put down your $1 or $2, whatever.
Okay,
So if you break the balloon, you'll get a bigger prize, but you're guaranteed a smaller prize.
That's nice. That's nice.
So I've seen that happening more.
So it's not so much as gambling as it's a sliding scale economic venture. There you go.
No matter what.
Look at you just want to take them home. Those ducklings. They're
so
adorable.
cute.
They're adorable. Now this is when Mike pitched this idea, it was the silliest thing I've ever heard. It's a song about office supplies.
And this song has taken so long to get done. It was one of those things when I originally thought of the concept and I kind of pitched it to the group. Everybody loved it. But then the first version of the story reel, Brian was actually working on it for one of his shows, Brian Roberts. And then for whatever reason, we had to speed up the tempo and change the cutting, and it just wasn't working yet. And then, we've massaged it over the years to say, we love this song, but how are we going to make it work? And then finally with, adding the singing office supplies and, speeding up the tempo a little bit and actually shortening the song, it really brought it all together.
I love it. Like, it's just Larry as the corporate drone. He's got his tie on and his parted hair. I think it's funny and silly and goofy and kids will love it. And this is the kind of thing that I know parents are going to watch and be howling.
Oh, yeah. There's a kind of a, just a different level to it. So it's a fun song, and for kids, it's very singable, very fun song, and then obviously with the fun little office supplies when they start singing. But I think parents will get something different from it.
I think anybody can relate to. Where is my stapler? Where it was right here.
And this set is actually based off of the Big Idea copier hall. So even right down to the color palette. Because we didn't have time to do color keys for this, so I actually went with my iPhone over to our copier room and took a picture and then emailed that to New Zealand. Said, "Here, do this."
Like this, kind of like this. I think it's everybody's copy room. It's like,
It is. Well, this is kind of stylish. Kind of has the burnt sienna walls and countertop and the nice maple cabinetry. A lot of them just have the white cabinets and, boring cabinet,
Brian Roberts is the voice of the legal pad there.
Oh, that's right, yeah. He also did the stapler. I did that background.
Absolutely ridiculous.
I got to do that background in After Effects. That was fun. My kaleidoscope of paper clips.
Just make that your screen, your desktop on your Mac.
I should.
Beautiful.
But yeah, this was actually inspired by me not being able to find a stapler one day, I must say.
You start humming a song.
Yeah, it's very similar to the hairbrush song, or Where's My Hairbrush? Here I was looking for a stapler, and I started singing Where Have All the Staplers Gone? This is just glorious. I love how the tune shaded area, tune shaded is we actually take the 3D animated files and run them through a different filter in Maya, and you kind of get that more of that
old school
traditional
kind of,
old school look. And I love how that turned out.
It's great. And now you notice the garbage can is now animated in the back. He's like woken up. What's going on?
Yeah, his little eyes are shifting around on the shredder.
Now that Sharpie has a flattened tip. We're not implying that all Sharpies have flattened tips, of course.
Right.
We think Sharpie is a great brand.
It is. I've consistently used Sharpies all the time.
Yes, big fans.
They shred a lot of colored paper in that office. They're not just boring white paper.
It's for effect. Uh-oh.
There's a little snappy thing at the end here.
I'm worried that's
snake
scare
stapler.
Kids.
Oh, it's going to be fine. It's just a cute little snake stapler.
Adorable. Now we're back with our main cast as we watch Pistachio be led astray by these horrible men.
So here's Pistachio back at the carnival. I think he's on his second gold coin now. He's losing that.
I like the way these games are designed. So even if he wins, he can't possibly. There's no way to win.
There's no way to win
at all, ever.
Yep. It's like that little, you know, that little thing you see in Denny's or
the
some,
claw.
Yeah, the claw that you
claw,
go and you
the
try to
claws
pick
I'm
up the
after,
thing, and
yeah.
and my kids are convinced that they'll be able to, you know, get the.
Oh, dude,
no,
I still
you're-
fall for that. I'm like, that one's right on the edge. I can totally get that. And
totally
the claw,
get
like, will literally pick up a paper cup and fall apart. The claw is zero gravity. It looks like a big metal hand. It will just, like, grab anything. But it's so slippy.
Beware, kids.
Yes,
You'll never.
don't
The claw
fall
does
at
not
all.
work.
We're going to get sued by the Claw Company.
The Claw Company.
The Great American Claw Company, Inc. will come after us.
The rain in this scene, I was really impressed with too. Just kind of the wetness on the ground, and you know, we
It's that
needed to.
foxtail thing. He's just like,
Oh yeah,
subtly
it's a nice little.
moving around.
Yeah, it's really nice.
Great.
You know, one of the things that we kind of had to draw the line on was just having the characters look wet, and you know, kind of having the rain fall on the characters themselves. But I think, you know, environmentally, you just have that nice feeling of.
Well, they are vegetables.
wetness and-
They get wet and they get bigger. That's how it
Yeah, there
works.
you go. That's how it works. They just grow.
VeggieTales is nothing if not realistic. If I was a clever kid, I would say to my parents, I can't eat vegetables. I love them too much. I don't want to hurt them.
It works both ways with veggies, you know. Some kids want to eat their vegetables because of VeggieTales. Others are, you know, think that.
I can't. This poor
But
cucumber.
but even Larry, you know, Larry tells kids, you know, as long as they're not talking to you, it's, you know, it's okay to
Go
eat
ahead
them.
and eat them. Yeah.
Just eat 'em. You know, this is fun musically here. We go back and forth between kind of a tango. Well, it's sort of all tango, but we kind of have with the scallions, we kind of have more of a bassoon flavored tango.
How do
and
you
then
how do you know what a tango is? How can you possibly know that?
Oh, I know tango.
Can you
well,
dance a
Barbara
tango?
I cannot dance tango. Although, see, when we did Barbara Manatee, it's a silly
yes,
song.
yes, yes.
You know, that was a very tango-y
Okay,
song.
okay.
So we did a lot of tango research back in there. But we kind of wanted to have this whole idea of this back and forth tango feel.
It's very clever the way the two sides are singing together. My mom dances the tango.
Does she really?
She sure
Oh,
does.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so.
Well, Mark Steele wrote this song, which is just a really fun song, and I love how it wraps up with the back and forth between, you know, the bad guys and the good guy. So it just really lent itself to tango.
Oh, he loses again. Didn't wait in the? I don't know if you have enjoyed the art section yet with Mike and Joe talking about art, but Joe said he actually won that bottle toss game when he was a kid.
I know.
That's amazing. I don't think he's the
Unbelievable.
only one I've ever met. He's won the bottle toss game.
Yep.
And it looks there's a whole field of them. There's so many bottles. How can you not
How
ring
could
a
you not
bottle?
win it? It's like the basketball game where you throw up the basketball and it looks like, you know, you should be able to make it even if you're a good basketball player.
I hear
I
the
hear
hoop
that
is too
the
small.
hoops are like elliptical instead
should
of or something.
Go
I don't know what
online
it
and
is.
check
Yeah.
and see if that's real. So here we are. Here's our. Shalana's got a good head of hair there.
He does.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
Sharp-looking man.
He is. Here we are at the Rainbow of Fortune.
No need to listen to your dad, you know enough.
Pistachio, you and you alone are not enough.
Rainbow of Fortune. That's kind of scary.
Being on your own can be quite scary. But isn't that what you wanted?
I thought it was.
Oh well, Gelato's probably already forgotten.
This game, surprise! I always chuckled with Mike about this. For these guys win $1, but they have to throw a card away every time. So
Well,
for each
you know,
dollar
the cart-
they make, they have to spend $40 making a cart. I guess they have they have an intern who goes out and swims out and brings the cart.
It brings it back. Well, it's just the tide washes in, you know, so the cart floats. So they'll find it on the beach the next
The
day.
beach is full of carts. We had to pick up the carts, Vinny. Moving on to the next town.
Just hope that the whale doesn't swallow it.
Yes.
All right.
Oh, Pistachio, you win. You're not gonna win.
Oh, here's another instance. You know, I was talking a little bit earlier about both the prodigal son parable and the lost sheep parable. But originally, the first question was about the lost sheep, and then the second question was about the
prodigal
parable
son.
of the prodigal son. But then as we began to simplify, you know, we made them both about the lost sheep.
Yeah.
And then it just worked out so well because as he's answering it, the question ends up being about his dad, you know, right when Gelato was out there looking for him. So the timing worked out really, really nice.
Of course, you risk losing the 10.
Don't do it.
Oh, Pistachio, come on, turn. It's not too late. Oh, you fool. Oh, well, that's okay. He'll learn one day.
You know,
And then Pistachio one day will become a father and have lessons to pass on to his children.
That's right.
And his children won't listen. They'll say, listen, let me tell you about carnivals. I know about carnivals.
I know about carnivores.
And foxes and cats. And getting lost at sea and eaten by a whale. So listen to your father.
That's right.
He was a good shepherd, and he loved all his sheep.
Correct. You've just won.
Do these carnivals come to Nashville very often? Or Franklin?
Oh yeah, yeah. There's a carnival every year in Franklin. Yep.
Worth a
Yep, I went a couple years ago, and they always seem to be here when it's at the absolute hottest day of the year.
I want to sell you more sodas. Yeah, it needs to be hot to make cotton candy. That's the secret. You never find cotton candy on a rainy day.
See, but like eating a funnel cake when it's really hot outside, there's just something about that I just,
Do you guys have, in Canada, we have those little donuts? It's a little donut cart, and they make little tiny donuts, and they fry them right there. And it's at every carnival. It's like this little kind of bubbling sea of lard, and they throw in a little dough, and they come out these little tiny donuts, and it's just like no human in the world can resist those little donuts.
They're really good.
I defy you. I challenge you to find me one
resist the
person
donuts.
who can't eat a whole bag of those.
And then the funnel cake's similar thing, except for they're kind of I think they're just a different shape, but then they sprinkle them with powdered sugar afterwards. And
Let's have one right now. Let's go right now. Let's pause the thing and go eat funnel cakes.
For 1,000 gold
see, now here's where you can't win.
So
This is like
what
the
were we talking
last
about?
question on like Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. That's
Didn't
impossible
we?
to answer.
There was a couple options here. One was like he holds up a big tub of Smarties or big tub of like beet jelly beans.
yeah,
and says,
like
how many jelly beans are in the
how
jar?
many- yeah,
No,
yeah.
What was the other one? There was some
we
incredibly
had, like, three
complicated math
different-
question.
Yeah, but
Yeah. What is the square root of 2 times the rate of consumption of the Pythagorean? What?
what is that? But see, what I loved about the woodchuck question is they're about ready to chuck the wood out into the,
yes.
he's made out of wood. They're going to chuck him into the
Oh,
ocean.
I didn't get that. Very
Yeah,
clever. Very
so
clever.
I think it works on multiple levels.
Bye, Pistachio.
There you go.
There it is. And here's one of the standard running gags for VeggieTales.
high fives.
No hands.
Always trying to do a high five. Now, if you're talking about the water earlier, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Look at that.
I
That
think this is
looks-
about as good as it looked in
about
The
as-
Perfect Storm, with George Clooney and Marky Mark right here. Mark Wahlberg.
This is it.
But,
They're in the eye of the storm right now. Oh.
I knew I'd find you.
And this is what your parents do. You get lost, they go out and look for
Yeah,
you.
look for you. Oh, look at that nice
Look at that.
water
Are
effect.
you kidding me?
Yeah,
Are you
the
kidding
water
me?
hits the lens of the camera.
Did the
That's so
camera just
awesome.
go underwater?
That's
Whose
so
studios,
awesome.
ladies and gentlemen? Right there. Talking about.
It's awesome.
Awesome.
There you go. Swallowed up in a big wave.
Done.
It's
This
a
is
little
actually-
intense. It's
it's
pretty intense, but
Quite a ring out here. And then we come to, and we change the
It's
color
okay.
palette.
He's
And
all right. He's all
it's
right. Those birds, see those birds right there?
Hmm?
Tim Hodge made birds out of clay
You're kidding.
and shot them in his garage
What?
at night over a black backdrop.
Those birds?
Those birds. He did that actually for the Pirates Who Don't Do Anything movie.
That's incredible.
And
Those
then
are great.
so we just had those white clay birds over black that we repurposed for this movie.
And I bet you know what he did when he was doing that? He was smiling the whole time.
He
he's
was
the
smiling
nicest
the whole
guy in
time.
the
The
world.
nicest guy in the world. That's right.
Next to Mike Naraki, who's also one of the nicest guys in the
Oh,
world.
stop.
Looking for me, Dad. We were out at sea.
So
And
this is Megan. What is the
Megan
voice?
Murphy?
Megan Murphy.
Megan Murphy,
is
who-
this particular instance of Madame Blueberry. She's changed.
I think
the helm has changed hands a few times for Madame
Yeah, I
Blueberry.
think Megan is our third Madame Blueberry. So, but yeah, she does a great job as Madame Blueberry. But it's funny because remember we were doing pickups for this 3 days before her wedding. She
Pickups
came
are
to
like
talk-
last minute audio records we get when you.
Sorry, I gotta go get married.
Like, wait, we need one more line. We
So
should do
her name may not be Megan Murphy next time. I'm not sure.
Oh,
We'll have
yes,
to-
of course.
we'll have to
Yes,
check and
yes,
see
just changing it up.
if she's going to change her last name or not.
Maybe Megan Blueberry.
Maybe
Be
that is-
fortuitous.
yeah, that'd be great. Got to marry a guy whose last name is Blueberry.
Yeah, that's right.
You know, I love too that I think the sand turned out great.
That's great.
Just being able to do the kind of another limitation in the pirate movie. It's kind of hard to do that with sand and track a bunch of all the sand footprints.
Yeah, because you have to actually indent. It's like basically the computer doesn't know that it's sand, so they have to
Yeah.
sort of manually shift the thing down to make it all
Yeah,
work.
and then track all the footprints. We spent a lot more time on the sand in Pirates, so we decided to make it hard pack sand.
That's a sensible move. Yeah. good
Yeah,
call.
so here, we just had one scene on the beach.
Did
so
you have funny bike horn sounds in the Pirates? Because that when Pistachio's nose pops out, there's a little
Some bike horn-
noise. I'm a big fan of every time we At the end of the show, you put all the sound effects and music together, and you do your final finishing bits. And I'm always pushing for more goofy sounds because I literally think like a 6-year-old. And I hear a funny sound and I go, it's funny. So there were some bike horns in this one that I wanted to come up because those big rubber goofy bike horns are so
big
silly.
clown noise.
They're
Yep.
so dumb. Here's another one. So when Pistachio trips, I wanted.
Oh, here we go. Boink.
Those are like those whiskers being pulled out of like. Meow.
Yep. There we go.
It's a funny sound. Like you don't even need to watch the show. You just listen to the funny sound.
You'd love being a Foley artist.
There's me again.
You would
That's
love
me.
that.
Hey, what do you do?
Yeah, that's the. I think that was the same pizza guy. He was just going down to the beach,
Crying out loud.
and you got to be the canvas seller guy here.
That's
coming
right. That's the fun of VeggieTales. It's like it's a group effort. It's like a volleyball team.
up. Side out, rotate.
That's right.
Caterpillar!
Silly cricket.
Cricket?
I am not dead! Pistachio! You are alive!
I'm looking for gelato.
Me too!
This is a fun scene because we wanted to have the horse pulling this cart up, but we didn't want to actually see the horse because the horse is a complicated thing to model and animate.
They
and
did
so
a heck of a job though. They built it in the last minute, and they still got because the backward legs of a horse are the wrong direction, and it's like really hard to animate.
yeah. So they did. So we actually just built the back of a horse, and they animated that. But then the trick was to how to shoot it in a way that we wanted to feel like the horse was still there without maybe seeing a little bit of the horse. So
Looking up, looking
just the way
down.
that the way we had to angle the cameras here to just
As long as that hunger's
never see the horse.
Here's the canvas seller. Do you have I have in my neighborhood canvas seller looks like that. He comes by, the milkman comes with the milk, and the canvas seller comes with the canvas. Need some more canvas today, Kevin? No, I'm fine, thank you. I'm good. I've got enough. I've got a few yards left. But thanks, Frank. I'll see you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow. I'll be by with your cart of used canvases in
So,
there.
I mean, that's for a horse that we made in 2 days. I mean, they did a heck of a job putting that together. And this is very important.
so proud of you right now.
So this is the beginning of
Pistachios,
Pistachio's
yeah.
turn. where he-
That's right. It's interesting with Pistachio. There's different pronunciations, and I think we've captured them all in this. I think there's Pistachio,
Pistachio.
Pistachio,
Pasistio.
Pistachio. So, and after we were trying, at one point we were trying to track and recording like,
who
is
did
it
you
pistachio
call?
or pistachio? What is it? And we were just like, oh, never mind. Everybody says it different anyway.
bungled
So
it up a couple
we never need
times.
to. We don't need to worry about it.
Oh, look at that.
There you go. That's some nice water.
Yep. Not exactly the best seagoing vessel as we see now.
This is not as nice as that cart, the roller coaster cart. It doesn't float as nice.
better. It was a better vessel.
And of course, here's a nice reuse of that's the Jonah whale, direct from Jonah. We pulled him back from hibernation.
Pulled him off tape.
He was actually really hard to find, but we were able to track him down. And he only shows up in 2 shots. He's in that shot, and then we do a cutaway shot of him a little later. But
He may show up again. You never know. So.
he's actually a friendly whale. We didn't want to get a scary looking whale, even for Jonah. And so he's sort of what a whale would look like if he were mixed with a dog. So a big friendly dog whale.
The Labrador golden retriever whale.
Yeah.
So you can throw RVs out for him and he'll catch him and bring
It
him
comes
back.
back. Yep.
You could use a catapult and fire out.
Yeah, he's a
Volkswagens.
beluga doodle.
What a lovely starter pet for your home whale. You could have your scorpion and your whale. What are the 2 perfect pets? So
Now
this
these are your buddies
great.
from Vancouver.
Yes, so,
These guys just made. There's actually 2 guys doing this
heck of a
voice.
job.
One guy doing the espresso voice
Yeah,
there. and
Trevor Duvall is singing now, and then Lee Tokar is the voice of these 2.
These 2
brothers here.
guys.
And basically Mike was saying, "Oh, we got to get some Italian guys." I'm like, "I got the guys for you." So, I grew up in Vancouver, Canada, and it's a very big community for voiceover talent. There's a lot of really, really, really strong actors there. And Lee is actually on Penguins as well.
Oh yeah, he's on 3-2 Penguins. Yeah.
So he's a friend of the studio, as they say. So
Yeah.
we actually recorded. They stayed in Vancouver, and Mike and I used Skype to call in and record, and directed them over the phone, and then they did a phenomenal job. I think the stuff that they did a lot of improv at the end, which came out really well, and they could sing too. Which I've never heard Lee sing. I was a little nervous, but he did a great job.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, it's funny with character singing. You don't have to quite. You don't have to be a. I'm trying to think of a great singing voice.
Amy Grant would be a great singing
Yeah,
voice.
she's a great singing voice. Who's the
Dean Martin, great singer.
What's that now?
Dean Martin. Great singing voice.
There you go. But yeah, you don't have to be a Pavarotti to be a singing vegetable. Yeah.
Although I blew it. At the in the final mix stages, we we'll be mixing, and there's a microphone in the little room next door, and we'll say, "Oh, we just need somebody to cough here. We need a cough sound." So someone will run in and cough. And there was one thing where we needed like a male, I think for the legal pads.
Oh yeah, we need
We're
to double
legal,
up.
and so
Yeah.
I tried to sing, and both you and Adam said, "Yeah, maybe not today." Maybe stop singing there. So, I will never. This will be my last VeggieTales show, unfortunately, and I've never had the pleasure of singing on VeggieTales, which is probably for everybody's benefit.
Oh, there's another whale
whale.
shot. Yeah.
He must go through life miserable because he hears this song over and over again, reminding you of how he's eating these poor boys. What?
What? Huh?
I've seen this 20 times and I still laugh at those guys. Here we go.
It's fun. We wanted to get kind of this quaint little Italian sidewalk cafe feel for the inside of this whale. So, the checkered tablecloth.
Yeah,
and
they may be trapped, but they're sophisticated. They got a tablecloth. They use
That's
cutlery.
right.
They're not animals.
That's right. Got a little painting of the Tower of Pisa. And
Right. Italians. Come on.
That's right.
Find the things in life.
Now this whale, even though it's the same outside of the whale, it's not as big as the inside of the whale from Jonah.
That's okay.
That was a much bigger interior whale.
This is Jonah's son.
That's
Or
right,
the,
son
the,
of Jonah.
The son of Jonah. The son of the whale.
This is fun with the Monopoly. We actually got permission from Hasbro, Parker Brothers, to use, and that's my actual Monopoly game.
Oh, is it?
Yep, I brought it home from
Awesome.
home. It's a vintage Monopoly game.
Beautiful
So
looking. Scanned it.
yeah, John Waba scanned it, and we sent it up to Hoo, and there it is.
Down to who?
I guess you're right. Yeah,
down.
they're in.
Okay.
Yeah,
They're at the bottom
yeah, bottom of the world down there in New Zealand.
with all the orcs and trolls where they made Lord of the Rings. I always imagine if I go to New Zealand, I'll see Gandalf running around. And
I think he's there. Yeah, I think he's there. I think that's where Hoo is. I think they're up in the Hobbit part of New Zealand.
yeah, they're just outside of Auckland, New Zealand, at a place
Yeah.
called Snell's Beach.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, and then Mordor is down, I guess, in the southern part of New Zealand.
yeah, no. So yes, I think great looking, and the lighting here is very, very warm, very nice, very friendly. It's just a
Yeah.
family establishment.
Never leave home without your tools.
I have never heard you say that.
Yeah, we talked about this particular shot for a while, just him chiseling his nose off, and we felt it was better to,
little-
cover it
little
up.
graphic. Let's do that.
Yeah.
Oh, it hurts! It stings!
We got plenty of food.
Guys, we're out of
It's funny in the original version. Well, when we were developing the script, Gelato had a sister who made a pill out of a seaweed made out of metaphorichlorium. Metaphorichlorium.
What?
Yeah, it was crazy because it was like he was going to take this. He was going to eat this seaweed.
This is the Kaladi version of
No,
Pinocchio?
This is in the version. He was going to eat the seaweed, and then the seaweed was going to make his nose shrink. And
Oh, that
it
was in a script earlier version.
Yeah,
of the script.
yeah.
Oh,
It was
I
made out of
remember that.
seaweed, which had metaphorichlorium in it.
Does that give you the force as well? Is that how you get your
What's
force
that now?
powers? Is that how the force works? Metachloriorium?
No, metaphor. See, we're just making a metaphorichlorium. It was
Oh,
it was a bad
yeah,
pun.
that's not so
It was a
good.
bad pun. It didn't go over. And it's like, we'll just chisel his
Yeah,
his nose
just
off.
chop it
Yeah.
off. It's nice wood. It's not gonna hurt.
He's made out of wood.
Yeah, you can bite on the end of the mallet or something. Just get it over with.
I know wood.
I am wood.
Yes.
This is the big moment. This is where Pistachio has to learn
Yep.
that
Yep.
what he thinks may be right.
Yep.
And at his tender young age of 7 hours, however old he is,
Exactly.
that his parents actually know better. This is a lesson that I still have a hard time with. Sorry, Dad. I know you're right always. And I know I argue. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I've learned a lot making this film. I won't argue with you anymore.
Here we go.
I love you very much.
Here we go. And now we are filled with castor oil.
Delicious castor oil.
If you're ever wondering what a barrels and barrels of castor oil will do
This
inside
looks
of a
like
whale,
this.
you're about ready to find out.
I was worried that the castor oil company is going to sue us and say, castor oil is delicious. How would you dare imply that castor oil makes you throw up? Castor oil is a lovely product.
What was it? Is it the Ipecac? Is like
Syrup of Ipecac.
Syrup of
yes, it's
Ipecac,
a
yeah.
purgative is what it's called.
yeah, is that a purgative? Yeah.
Yes.
It's just not as well known as castor oil.
No,
So
I know, but Ipecac is the only thing it does is make you throw up. Parents
Okay.
keep it around if you have children and poisons about.
Yeah, yeah.
And if you are a parent, you shouldn't have poisons about.
That's right.
I would hope. No, not that I am a parent,
And I
but
don't
there's
know if
certain
you
things
can-
that I've picked up. But yeah, it makes you actually expectorate. Makes you.
Wow, these fancy words that you know.
I grew up. I went to the schools and whatnot. I did the math and English learning.
Although we had to have a reason for them to have this, oil there. So I was using it to keep the lights on. But I don't know if you can burn ipecac in candle oil. So I'm not sure.
Probably not. Casper really can't. The whale, I want to just get my little thing in there. That whale throw up sound was me.
Oh yeah, that was very well done.
We were at the mix and found there was no sound of the whale actually getting sick, so I got to go and make a bunch of throw up sounds. It snuck in there. That is literally, a lot of the times when I'm making these shows and working any cartoon, you just sort of step back and go, did I just do that? Is that my job? Did I just make a throw up sound for a whale in a microphone? And we are so lucky and fortunate to be to do this for a career. We
don't have to run a spreadsheet. We can just, make a throw up noise.
It's great. And I got to say, this is my last VeggieTales.
Well, Kevin, it's been a pleasure
working with you.
Pleasure working with you. Yeah,
you guys are fabulous.
Wish you all the best in your next venture.
Thank you. And I'm going to continue watching these great shows.
Oh, thanks, man.
And I hope you do too at home. Keep on keeping on with VeggieTales because we're not going anywhere.
I love it. It's from the museum gift shop.
How big is the complete collection now? You must have to carry it in like a pickup truck. The complete collection of VeggieTales coming to you in one giant armoire. Comes in a collectible barrel.
Here we go. Everybody's singing.
Sing song. And I think we should say goodbye to everybody. Thank you for tuning in.
Well, we'll keep
gonna
keep
talking?
going. Yeah, we'll keep
Okay,
going. Yeah,
all right.
we'll go
See,
over that.
I'm looking at my empty coffee cup. I'm like,
Yeah, we have to, do the, the credits and
too?
all that. We'll talk through the
Goodness.
credits.
Oh,
and
Mike, we have so much more time together.
We have so much more time. We'll just keep
I'm
going.
gonna treasure
here.
these last moments.
Here we go. Back to the new
yes.
kitchen.
Story, Bob? It sure was. Larry, what's everybody doing here?
I love the way that we haven't implied that is a popular computing brand,
Yes, yeah.
but we certainly would never name by him say it by name. But
Yes.
it looks pretty close.
Oh, it's an ode to.
a product that we all know and love.
And we use it extensively and love it greatly.
I think every computer here in Big Idea is one of those unnamed computer brands.
I think it probably is. Though the webcams,
That's
are now internal.
Yes,
so,
they're
yeah.
not. Oh, we know artistic license.
That's right.
These guys are just so funny.
It's
Look
funny
at
because-
Bob. He just looks like such a grump here.
Well, he's always like that on the What Have We Learned song.
Which is totally not. I mean, I had the pleasure of meeting Phil Vescher, and he too is a lovely, fun, nice, great guy. Just, how did you guys draw straws? Like, who's going to be the grump? All right, you.
Well, see, now
Oh,
Bob is a
darn
much
it.
more serious one. So,
That's
and the thing with him, we've had this running gag for years with the What Have We Learned song. He doesn't like to be interrupted, and it always interrupts him. So he gets grumpy
yes.
when it
Yes.
interrupts him.
Got it.
So, but of course, Bob recovers after the song, and we go right into the Chordyverse.
And Larry always
So-
offers insightful advice, insightful observations during this time as well. So. And Larry
right.
can't help but jump in. He's excited. He's always so
right.
excited.
wiser, and that he loved him and wanted what was best for him. Just
And
like
here's this
Oh,
handsome,
there's
here's this
that handsome
lad
boy
again.
again.
Who is this handsome boy?
Who could that be?
This
You have to watch the
phenomenal
credits
actor.
to find out.
He's gonna have girls chasing him around school, getting them to sign his copy of VeggieTales.
Let it all out, big guy. Let it all out. Oh, that's okay. What's the matter with you?
He doesn't like it when he blows his nose. What's the matter with you? Rude.
Love you very much. Bye.
And there we go.
Love that fella. What? It's a fancy place.
These
It's
two
a
guys
fancy
are
place.
great.
Oh, look at that.
There's you. Look at you. Oh, look at you.
there's
That's
Mark.
Steele, a
There's
good guy.
Mark. I
He's a
think
good
you're
egg.
coming up. Oh,
That's
there you
me.
go.
I made the show.
Oh, and of course, Kurt
Who could
Heineke.
forget Kurt Heineke? What
Great
a
job on the
handsome,
score
handsome
again.
man. Great
John
composer.
Waba.
Lovely John Waba.
Great job.
And now we do. This is a
Associate
great little
producing.
fun scroll. And Mike, just the artisanal qualities of VeggieTales. Mike Naraki made these himself in After Effects.
Well, I
His
rolled them
credits.
myself. Ron Eddy, who's a fantastic artist for us. He does a lot of print and design stuff for us. He did the credits, and it's great. Just we throughout the process of production, we get textures and models that we approve. And we just went back into a bunch of the approval sessions, and Ron, picked out all these toys. There's a chicken, he, got all that, and then he painted this wood background, and he slapped the text over it, and it's a
great.
nice little roll.
And
So-
one of my favorite parts is the music at the end, because we pull the lyrics out and you get to hear these fun little ditties.
Yeah.
The songs are so good in this show. I've literally caught myself singing these songs 50 times.
They're very, very, very
You must
singable stuff.
You must sing these when you drive all the time.
You know, the fun thing with working with Mark Steele, he's got such a great Broadway show tune sense to him. So he just came up with some really catchy tunes.
Cool. Jackie Fu, she's great.
Oh yeah, she did a great. Oh man,
Start talking about people. Oh, Peter Chow, what a modeler. He can model like nobody's business. He used to model for Calvin Klein.
It's like, what was it? Whose line is it anyway? That show where
they
they
just
have to
read the
narrate
credits?
over, yeah, they have
that's
to
terrible.
narrate over
Yeah.
the credits. We should try
There's
that.
nothing useful going on here. Parents have already gone to get another cup of tea. Like, I'm done here with this commentary. Now they're just goofing off. I love this power ballad Kurt has here with his guitar.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Dennis Deering, he's doing the guitar here. He's a neighbor of Kurt, so
Oh, yeah.
Kurt just had to go down the block and say, "Hey, you mind doing some power guitar for us?"
Awesome. He does a lot of 80s rock
Whenever we do
ballad stuff,
do
doesn't he?
guitar, we make sure it's 80s ballads.
I think we're out. This is it, Mike. We're done. Thanks for listening, everybody.
Oh, wait, we have a little bit to go.
Oh,
a little
oh.
bit to go because, see, first we have the hoo-hoo logo coming
have
up,
that, yep.
which is a very cool logo, the bug. That's actually, that bug right there is a hoo-hoo bug. That's what they're named after.
Oh.
And then there's the Big Idea logo.
No
and
idea.
we can sign off now. So
Okay.
thank you, everybody, for listening. I'm Mike Naraki.
I'm Kevin Gamble. Thanks for coming.
Hello, everybody. This is Mike Naraki. I am the director and one of the writers on Sweetpea Beauty.
And this is Leslie Farrell. I'm producer, executive producer on the show, or what I like to refer to as Queen Bee,
Queen Bee. Queen of the Ball.
which it certainly fits with the show.
That's right, being our
We have a
first
queen.
very princess,
Yes.
all-girl princess show.
Yes,
So,
this was such an exciting show to put together, certainly as a, the group of the women that were involved in the concepting. Because, we used to sit around, it was fun sitting around with you, Mike, and just kind of throwing out, hey, we need a gown and a crown. And lots of sparkly.
and lots of sparkly. And it's funny because, with a show mostly over the years being, developed and written by guys, coming up with a princess story isn't the most natural thing, And I remember, Duke and the Great Pie War, which was initially Princess in the Pie War, was kind of our first attempt. But then I remember we ran in, what was it, the next princess attempt that we took was sort of a Rapunzel story and then a kind of a detective Cinderella story.
Right.
But didn't quite have all of the, what women were looking for from a true princess story. So it was
Right,
great
right.
getting that direction from you to say, okay, what if we did a couple of, real true princess stories.
Oh, you did a great job. I mean, you just took on what, we started with what's just that, dream of every little girl. Every little girl at some level, wants to be perceived as beautiful.
Yeah, and just that whole topic of image and how we see ourselves and how we think other people see ourselves and how that affects, how we feel about ourselves and contrasting that with what the Bible says about how God sees us and how He looks at the heart rather than on the outside. So I think that was just a great thing to concentrate on, is that topic of inner beauty.
Well, I know you have a girl, and having raised a girl, I really, the pressure, for my daughter to look, a certain way and, dress a certain way and, to evidently find acceptance or a sense of belonging, it's just so upside down from really what God's wishes are.
Yeah.
And, to build your self-esteem on something, that false is just so destructive. And I really am so thankful that my daughter sees, that, God values her, period, and that her real beauty's from within. And that's what, we really want.
Really want.
We really want
exactly.
little girls and young women to get from this show.
And that Annie here, obviously Annie is the voice of Allie, my daughter, so it's kind of neat having her in the show in that sense. And this is Lauren, one of Allie's good friends, so that was really fun.
Oh, that was probably fun for them to participate
together
on.
to do it together. That's great, and they're both kind of in that age where that's sort of the thoughts that they're starting to have. And of course, Sydney Trent as Petunia, who's actually going to come and visit
She's gonna be
us
a
in
guest
little bit.
later
That's
on,
right.
isn't
Yeah,
she?
yep. She'll be in our commentary a little later on. So, this is the story of Snooderella. You know, a bunch of folks may remember the story, Snoodle's Tale, which we did a number of years ago, which was a very Seussian, story. About a little Snoodle who went up to the mountain to talk to his creator and find out how he was special. And it was it was a really wonderful story about self-worth and where we should get our self-worth. And we thought it would just be really fun to do a kind of a girl version of that. You know, the original Snoodle's Tale was a little boy Snoodle who did that. And we thought, what would it look like to have that journey happen with a girl Snoodle? And the name Snooderella was just it just had a catchy feel to it.
Oh, it was perfect. You know, what better way to do it than to put it as an overlay to, the classic fairy tale Cinderella. It's just perfect. You really just did it so smart and clever.
Well, thanks. And so, yeah, just being able to pull that familiar, everybody knows the story of Cinderella and what that, and that one's just been, if you look at that as a Christian, what does that say about beauty, that, she was plain and she was made beautiful and then she got the prince by being beautiful. And we wanted to look at that from slightly different direction as she goes to the ball that the king is throwing, what does the king have to say about her and her appearance? And we just wanted to really parallel that with what God says about us and how he loves us.
Right. I love that. And not to give away the ending here, but I love how in the tale here, Snooderella doesn't leave with the prince, but she leaves with the knowledge that, God loves her just for the way she is.
Yeah.
And, and in that God's going to bring people in our lives that can love us and care for us and be, really his vessel to us of his, care and love. And he'll give us a community that we belong in. It's just a wonderful. I love the whole look of the sets here. Just that, what you mentioned earlier, kind of that Seussical. You can see it in the interiors, and you saw it just earlier in the town. Where'd you come up with the idea for the little fairy wings? I love that.
Well, the original Snoodle's Tale, they had wings, but they also had backpacks. But we thought it'd be fun to make them look almost more like when you get a princess costume. The fabric on the princess costume, just that kind of that silky look. My little girl has gotten a few princess costumes over the years, and just wanted to kind of incorporate that look into the wings themselves. One of the things I wanted to mention here was about the voices that we had to cast. Typically with our VeggieTales voices, we have our cast of characters, but Snoodle is a whole different world. So casting the female voices, because there are so many female characters, we needed to reach out and make sure we got just the right voices for these characters. And so with Snooderella, and then with the Step Snoodle and Sisters. Step Snoodle and Sisters is Carrie Pistachio, so she did both of those characters. And then Rebecca Walker did the voice for Snooderella. And it was funny as she was reading for that, she started off with a kind of a typical princess voice, and she's done some voiceover work before as a princess. And we just weren't, hitting on what really felt like was appropriate for this character. And I said, what would it sound like if you just got really nerdy on us and just started talking like you were going to like a Lord of the Rings convention or something.
Star Wars convention.
Yeah, exactly.
Sorry, Star Wars fans.
Well, just like a super fan. And, she just had a really great delivery with that. So I'm really happy with the voice here, and she did a great job.
And these ducks, this is the second time they've appeared in our shows.
Yeah, that's right. With Pistachio, we had the Berry Godmother in Pistachio. We just, in that whole fairy tale land of Pistachio, where, the Berry Godmother and the ducks came along. And we wanted to bring that back in. Oh, the Blue Fairy is what she was called actually in Pistachio. And of course, since the woodland creatures make up Cinderella, we had to bring in woodland creatures in here too. So
Do you
sort of,
think I could ever get one of those spa in the boxes? I think we really
that's a
need
pretty good thing, isn't it?
That's amazing. Just open it up and there it is.
And there you go.
Yeah, I love that. So I want to make sure we make a VeggieTales version.
One of the challenges, technical challenges in this show was the mirrors. This whole show is populated with mirrors because it's just a central theme, and obviously how we see ourselves, and that's how we view ourselves is through mirrors. And so, with the countertop, with Snooderella, and in Sweetpea, we use this mirror theme. But from a technical point of view, it's difficult because you really have to shoot. One shot becomes two shots because you have to shoot through the camera of the world itself, and then you have to have another camera that's basically pointed, that's set in the mirror, pointed out to give you your reflections. And so it's like almost double the work when you have a mirror in a shot. So that was definitely a technical challenge.
With that, Snoodlerella, her step Snoodle and
And of course, we wanted to give Bob a cameo. So that's Snoodle Bob.
Snoodle Bob.
And if you'll notice, he's sort of looking at his hands in wonder, like a little baby when he's down there looking at his hands, like, oh, what are these? We wanted to do that with Bob too.
That is great. The rhyme really carries the story, and just, not only, the words, of course, have meaning, but I think that cadence, adds, kind of that fairy tale and charm.
I'm such a huge Dr. Seuss fan, and of course the original Snoodle's Tale, which Phil wrote, Phil Vischer, was in that kind of that Seussian cadence, and I've always been a huge Dr. Seuss fan, and I'd read so many Dr. Seuss books to my kids, and not only because they loved him, but I just loved reading them. I mean, just reading with that cadence and practicing that and trying to do it without messing up was always a challenge. And but it was a really fun challenge to try to write a whole story like that, and just kind of keep up that cadence, and follow the whole line of the story and the path of the character.
Now, seriously, Mike, you knew all these dance steps, right? Because you and your wife have been taking lessons.
Well, yeah, my wife is such a great dancer, and so we actually met soon after we met. We would go out salsa dancing, and so she taught me how to salsa. And she's a great dancer, and I've become I'm still self-conscious about dancing just because I'm 6'5". So whenever you see a 6'5" guy out there dancing on the dance floor, it sort of sticks out like a sore thumb. So, but yeah, I love all these. It was fun to kind of incorporate all these dances in rhyme.
This is really cute to put the fun dances in.
Yeah.
We should do a how to do all the steps. It's part
Yeah,
of the bonus
exactly.
features.
Yeah, it was like
How to do the rumba.
That's right.
Yeah,
Just
how to do ballroom dancing.
Yeah.
Early morning meeting. Good evening.
It's Tim Hodge, voice of dignified Snoodle.
Oh, super.
And Tim also did the voice of the king, who, he's coming up here in a minute. And Tim was the creator in the original Snoodle's Tale too. So we wanted to bring back that same feeling of that character here. So Tim came and did that voice, and he just did a really good job there.
Still not sure.
But look, you follow this story, and here she is. She is beautiful on the outside, and yet I love how you had her make the point, even when I'm beautiful on the outside, I still don't feel beautiful on the inside or nurtured. That outward beauty, although so many people chase it,
Yeah.
it doesn't fulfill.
Right. Yeah. And there's so many, there's so many people who have what the world would consider that outward beauty, but are still very insecure about really who they are and what their place in the world is. And I think that can really be found through what God tells us about ourselves.
Right, and just how much He longs for us to have that assurance. It's part of the fullness, of belonging to Him. And you really see this here when I love this shot when she turns around and she sees the king.
I'm an awfully poor choice.
Look at that. There she goes ahead and says it. Again, she's beautiful, and she's like, but I'm an awfully poor choice.
And this was actually that little bit of dialogue was a direct lift from the original Snoodle's Tale, and just sort of an ode to that, and really that same reflection that Snoodle do or Snoodleroo. I forget what his name was, the little Snoodle in the original Snoodle's Tale, but yeah, just carrying that backpack of all those images that people had put in about how they saw him. And then the king basically saying, no, it's about, about the painting that I've drawn of you and what I think of you.
A Snoodle's Tale has been one of the most, through our customer service, Snoodle's Tales we've really had the most comments on that show.
Yeah.
And they've been pretty revealing, which we've just appreciated, moms in particular that have written about tough spots that some of their kids are going through, particularly as they make transitions during elementary school, and how much that show, really ministered to their children and supported what their parents are trying to do to support them. And we've had schools use the show as a teaching tool, and of course churches and church preschools. And I really think the same will be true of this show.
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah, it really comes alongside and teaches that, very much needed, tale of, God really looks at the heart.
The Snoodle King said.
There's the crown. I wish I had a crown.
Little princess crown. Don't you have a little tiara that you can wear around work, Leslie?
Well, once again.
Oh, a word about the kind of the set here. This is the classic fairy tale castle is Neuschwanstein, which is in Bavaria in Germany. And that ballroom is actually, designed after one of the ballrooms in Neuschwanstein. I had the chance to go there, actually with my wife and the producer of the Pirates movie, Paula Marcus. We went, we recorded the score for Pirates in Prague, and then got to go down to Munich, for a few days after we were finished.
Hey, talk about the moment at the end, Mike. I really liked how you wrapped up the kind of the teaching moment.
Just that, after having danced with the king, she could go back to her world, and even though, she still might be getting the same outward messaging from her sisters and her step Snoodle, she had danced with the king, and she knew what he thought about her, and that made what they said about her not mean as much to her anymore. So.
Next up on Veggie Shopping Network, pants.
Okay.
All right,
now
here we go.
This.
There's some pants.
Here's some pants.
This song, I have a friend, Ian Eskelin, who is just a tremendous singer-songwriter, who actually Brian Mitchell here at Big Idea introduced me to. And Ian pitched this song idea, and just a fun, bouncy song called Pants. He had written it with a friend of his, Doug McKelvey. And we just had such a fun time putting this together. They originally wrote it as an auction song, so he's like trying to auction off pants. And so we took it in and developed it and just said, it'd be really fun to actually have it as a veggie shopping network, so it kind of suited itself really well to TV. So Larry's just trying to pitch pants. So instead of, the price going up on a single pair of pants, we're counting down the pants that we're selling, like they do on, the home shopping network.
And Jimmy and Jerry are perfect, aren't they?
Oh, yeah, exactly. Yeah, just putting them on stilts.
Just putting them on stilts is funny.
Yeah, just the ridiculousness
you're
of...
short,
and Brian Roberts did those animated 2D pants. He did a great job on those.
Yeah, going
But
across
yeah, just
the
the
screen.
ridiculousness of, vegetables in pants. Of course, they're on stilts now.
Well done.
High-grade vinyl. Don't hesitate! All sales are final.
To summarize, you might recall their pants if you're short and shorts if you're tall.
4, 3, 2, 1, going, done!
We're out of pants, we gotta run. Pants.
You've got some skinny legs.
Well, everybody, we have a very special guest joining us now. It's Sydney Trent, who is the voice of Petunia Rhubarb. Hey, Sydney, how you doing?
Hey, Mike. Hi, Leslie. Thanks for letting me sit in a bit.
Oh, sure. So, Sydney, what was it like to have Petunia play a princess again?
I was so excited to take Petunia back to her original roots. Her very first release in the VeggieTales series was Duke and the Great Pie War, and that was where we first created Petunia, and a big part of her was her innocence, her raw innocence, and her giggle. And it was so fun to get to go back to the basics and pull out that giggle and that light, fun, airy, honest Petunia.
Well, what was really cool is it was such a contrast to Madame Blueberry, who was really struggling with her beauty.
I loved that Petunia felt so square on her feet and so strong about what she believed in. And I think a lot of that has to do with the happy-go-lucky side of her, which is interesting because in life, the children in our world are the happy-go-lucky, they're the younger ones. And as adults, we tend to lose some of that. And it's nice to bring that back in. She is an adult, but she still has that happy-go-lucky feeling that a child may, and particularly when she's running in the forest and she's talking with the animals, and it's just happy, it's just good.
Yep. Well, do you think that Petunia connects with young girls?
I absolutely do, particularly in the world today with the struggles that young girls face about their physical appearance. And since Petunia is a role model, it made me very, very proud to be able to speak for the cause and let little girls everywhere, and boys as well, actually, know that it's about what's on the inside, and it's not about what's on the outside, and that you don't have to be anything specific.
That's right.
You don't have to conform to the way that others are. You are special in your own self. And so, yes, it meant a lot, and I do feel that this will be an exceptional role for her to reach out and touch.
Cool. So does playing a princess fulfill a childhood dream for you?
It does, although I have to giggle at that question because when you're a child, or a little girl, I should say, and you dream of being a princess, you don't usually picture yourself to be a vegetable. So it's been kind of fun and quirky for me. So I don't know, I giggle when I think about that. I'm a rhubarb princess, and it's awesome, and it definitely brings me to some of my childhood dreams, especially the way it speaks to the kids.
Cool. Well, all right. Well, I know you have to go, but thanks for stopping by. It was a pleasure having you as part of the show.
Thank you so much, Mike. It is a pleasure for me, too. I can't even tell you how proud I am of what we do and the way we speak. I am actually the mother of a young daughter myself, and to know that I can bring this to her and the rest of the world is very special. So I really believe in what we're doing.
Awesome.
And thank you very much.
Well, thanks, Sydney, and I hope to see you in another VeggieTales really soon.
That sounds great. Bye.
Bye.
Bye, Sydney. Mike, should we give just a little sneak peek into the production behind Sweetpea? There was some challenges. This is a pretty complicated show technically, which some of our fans may not understand all that goes into it.
Yeah, I mentioned the mirror. There's 3 mirrors, on the countertop and Snooderella, now in Sweetpea. And Sweetpea, the mirror is animated. And as we'll see in a minute, he's got limbs. So, he grows his arms, he grows his legs, and he walks around.
That's because every once in a while in a VeggieTales show, we have to throw them some arms somewhere.
That's right. Yeah. We couldn't do that at the beginning of VeggieTales when we started 17 years ago, but we can now. So, but one of the things we were working with a new animation studio, which is always a challenge because you need to get everybody kind of up to date on how to animate your characters, how to emote the specific personality of your characters. And I really think they did a great job in animation, really capturing, who our characters are. And Larry looks like Larry and Petunia looks like Petunia. So I think that was wonderful. We have a number of sets, a number of special effects. And oops, I dinged. And getting all of those, just pulling all that stuff together in any production is just a huge challenge. And so, we went right up to the line on this production, getting shots out. In fact, as we're watching this show, some of the shots that we're watching are not final, and so we're just really hoping that we'll see some final shots pretty soon.
Haven't we dubbed this show "Don't Stop Believing"?
Yeah, Don't Stop Believing.
DSB.
DSB.
That's what we tell each other.
Yeah.
DSB.
Yeah, there's 2 acronyms, DSB and CBB. Could be better.
Well, I know it's going to be beautiful, but the textures of the castle, just those castle walls, they look so. We just saw the shots.
Yeah, we just saw them last night. Yeah, they're looking really, really great. So. And just wanted to really capture a fairy tale feel. One of the other things that was really fun in the show was just all of the, and Sweetpea in particular, we wanted to make it feel like a princess musical. And Mark Steele, who wrote Sweetpea and wrote the songs for this, along with Kurt, helping him out, with arrangement and melody. I think the songs really came together really well on this show. Just a lot of fun music.
And I love all the little forest critters.
Yeah,
the hedgehog.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the hedgehog.
The worms that form a heart.
Yeah, it's kind of creepy, but that's okay. It's part of the message. But it's fun with the animals. And an interesting story about the animals. We had in the VeggieTales backlot some characters that we had used in the past, including the porcupines from Jonah, and so we pulled back that model. But as we went through production, it just turned into a really difficult character to animate. And we had plans for a skunk to make sort of a cameo, but the skunk was a new model, and it just worked so much better in this show that we swapped the roles of the skunk and the porcupine. So the porcupine initially wasn't named Gaspard, but then we swapped that to the skunk, so the skunk shows up more. But it's just fun. You can't have a princess story without woodland animals. So.
No.
Nothing like getting close to nature.
Come with me. I want to show you a book my father and I have been reading.
I smell like a wet dog.
So, and Mark, also the writer of Sweetpea, was the voice of the mirror. So he had a lot of fun doing that. And then Madame Blueberry, Megan Murphy, just did such a great job. I think Madame Blueberry is at her best when she's whining.
I do too. I do too. And the things we can do with her as a character. I mean, think of what she looked like in, Madame Blue.
Yeah.
And then look at her here now with her big crown and her kind of pursed lips and her whiny attitude. She's terrific.
Oh yeah, she's such a great character. Joe Spataford, who did the concept on her, queenly attire, did a great job too. So the mirror was a real technical challenge because if we were to have him reflective the whole time, we would have never got the show done. So one of the things we had to do was sort of give him a generic reflective texture, and just sort of reveal that every once in a while, reveal that he's reflecting her every once in a while. But stylistically, I think it turned out okay. I think part of it would have been distracting if we would have just seen, if we would have seen the room and his stomach the whole time.
Yeah, I think so too. You have to kind of make him his own person.
Yeah.
Now look at that catch. Queen blue with pearls.
Yes, they are lovely pearls.
Pearl earrings, pearl necklace.
Part of the fun part about this too now is, just this mirror as this evil character, being able to give her a false reflection, so this mirror is showing the queen what she wants to see and what she thinks, she should look like, being, younger and what she thinks is more beautiful. When on the outside, she's revealing the true nature of her heart. I think one of the fun things about this show too, what Mark did a really good job with, is combining a ton of princess stories. You think about Cinderella, you think about Sleeping Beauty, Rapunzel, you can just Snow White, all of these classic princess stories kind of jumbled together in one story. It's just a lot of fun, So she's banished. She meets the 7 Snow Peas. She gets stuck up in a tower.
Characters.
Yeah, the 7 Snow Peas. Yeah, those guys are great. Brilliant. I can fit an acorn in my belly button. It's a vegetable with a salad on his head.
I grew up with a Danish granddad who, in his childhood, he was just told the Hans Christian Andersen fairy tales his whole life. And if you've ever visited Copenhagen, part of visiting Copenhagen is seeing the Little Mermaid statue.
Cool.
Really, his stories are something that, of course, the Danes are very proud of. So I was, raised on those stories. The Princess and the Pea and the Little Mermaid. And I have so many fond memories of my grandpa telling me all of these stories, and we used to just beg for them, the retelling over and over and over, because really in most fairy tales, not only is there that magical quality, but there's always a lesson. You know,
Oh,
there's
yeah, yeah.
some darker than others. You know?
Well, I was gonna say
Yeah.
they all end with freaking the kids out.
Yeah, Hansel and Gretel really takes a bad turn. But anyway, just all to say, you know, we used to love fairy tales.
Yeah.
And I do think, you know, even kids today, you know, we used to read fairy tales to our kids as well, you know, as a genre.
Oh yeah,
And-
yeah. Oh, absolutely, and they're all wonderful morality plays, and they all the classic ones, you know, tend to be a little bit darker if you go back to the original, but they always have something to say about, you know, how
Good and evil.
Yeah, good and evil, and the consequences of our actions, and you know, so I think they're really valuable. I mean, that was one of the things that really drew me to Pinocchio, the original story, you know, which is pretty dark in places, but I think. You know, at the heart of that, it's just a wonderful morality play based on biblical worldview. You know, which you know certainly Hans Christian Andersen and Carlo Collodi, you know, had. So it's really neat to be able to to now in a modern era take that and incorporate that worldview into a fairy tale.
I'm wondering if our fans have picked up Hear the Minstrels.
Ah, the minstrels, yeah, yeah, and they're such a fun. You know, it's you know a great storytelling style, especially with kind of that Renaissance medieval flavors. Just to have these traveling minstrels narrating as we go along. But Mr. Lunt and Jimmy, both voiced by Phil Vischer, are just a lot of fun throughout this whole thing. And later they actually score the action scene by singing, which is just a really funny gag, you know, sort of an inside musical gag. So I think musicians will really appreciate it, but I think it's really, it works really well just you know, in the regular context of the story.
They kind of have that combination of they're just annoying enough, you know, to be
They just
also
pop in and intrusive.
entertaining.
Yeah, that's right.
You know,
Personal space.
you could just feel how closely annoying they are.
Oh, there's Gaspard. He's a cute little skunk.
He's very
He doesn't smell too
cute.
good,
Here we
but he's
go.
cute.
Okay, these are my favorite. See, here we go. Everybody can guess. What's this?
Okay, so here we even have, you know, we dipped into the
Goldilocks.
Goldilocks lore
Yeah.
here, you know. So we got Goldilocks and Snow White in the same
We mixed them
hut.
all up.
That's right.
We took liberties.
Yeah. Oh, and here comes a princess in the pea illusion here. So she can't sleep because there's a pea under her mattress. Oh, and this set is actually a reuse of Gelato's workshop from Pistachio, which was in turn a reuse of Boo Booville workshop for the inventor, Larry, who played the inventor in Boo Booville. So we got some good
from the show Abe and the Amazing
Abe
Promise.
and the Amazing Promise. Yeah, so we got some great mileage out of this set. Oh, there's something brilliant.
There's the acorn.
That's right.
That's a pretty nifty trick. Is that something that you or Mark could do? And so that's
Shoot
how it
an
got written
acorn
into
out of
the
our belly
script?
button. Yeah, we tested some different things. You know, we tested some wrenches and some.
Yeah, I wanna
you
see
know,
that.
Yeah, but
Next
you know,
Christmas party.
acorns turned out to be the perfect size. You know, it's just so funny. It's so random at the beginning here, but of course, it does play a part in our resolution of the action scene.
And that's when the kingdom starts falling apart. If only we were
If only we weren't so adorable.
So it's great. You know, Jean-Claude and Philippe have always been the exact same model. You know, so you know, you can't differentiate them apart visually. And then to add 5 more of them, actually 4 more of them, because Unbrilliant is the only different one. It was hard to keep track of them in animation. So the animators came back. Which one is talking? I don't know which one is supposed to be talking, because they kind of sound alike too. But you have to really know them well to realize which one is which.
You know, we run contests with our fans, and like one of the things we'll ask is we'll say, "Hey, give us a ranking, you know, of your favorite VeggieTales characters," and the French peas come in 4th.
The 4? All right.
Yeah.
Wow. As a pair, they're
They're
not
just
separated.
French peas.
Yeah, just
yeah,
French
they aren't
peas.
separated.
Oh, that's awesome.
So,
That's awesome.
you know, it's Larry, Bob, Junior, French peas.
And French peas. Okay. Yeah.
And with Petunia, actually
Okay.
very close
Very
behind
close.
the French
Oh, cool.
peas.
That's awesome. That's my order. I like that. I like that order.
Yeah. Oh, she's lovely.
It was fun kind of coming up with her, you know, just her different phases, you know, as she starts to make more and more ugly decisions. You know, I was talking to Joe about it at the beginning of the show and just said, hey, you know, she just needs to just get hideous, what could come up with it. And he came back with this drawing that he told me he just kind of did it as a joke. He said, "Oh, they'll never go for this." And I was like, "That's perfect." So, but she just looks so funny.
Okay, Mike, so you've got to answer the question. If we're talking about how it's beauty on the inside that counts, well, what are we saying here? When she just gets uglier and uglier and uglier, that shouldn't really matter.
Yeah, we could parse this philosophy and really get into some deep waters here.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but just that whole idea of her inward decisions having a consequence. We wanted to kind of reflect that and kind of a comical hideousness coming out of her.
Right. And of course, what we really teach here in the story at the end is that juxtaposition of Queen Blueberry and Petunia is that what makes Petunia so beautiful is what's inside her heart.
Yeah. It's not that she's cute on
Right.
the outside. It's just the decisions that she makes and the kindness that she shows to the queen. And that's what's beautiful about her.
Right. And that's really what gets recognized and really adored.
Yeah. Jerry Gord. Some people might think that he sounds a little bit like Larry, and those people would be right.
So see, at this point, she doesn't see her true self.
That's right. Oh yeah, every time she looks in the mirror, she sees a falsely beautiful version of herself. So
Right.
she doesn't get that yet. So she doesn't find that until later.
How many times do we look in the mirror and see a false self?
That's right. Just with the right type of lighting, that can do wonders.
That mirror really is
He's
a
so
bad
treacherous.
guy.
He's so treacherous. I like this all camera move here as we move out.
Yeah.
Just the minstrel's been hanging out.
Here come
watching
the
whole
minstrels
thing.
doing the little backstory here,
Yeah.
helping us stay on track.
Originally, we had the minstrels. There was another scene right after this where the minstrels went out to get Prince Larry. For timing, we just had to cut it out. But I don't think, at the end of it, I don't think I miss it. So they just say, "Hey, let's go get the prince," and then, they come back with the prince to the rescue afterwards. Works out pretty well.
That looked like a King George. Is that a King George?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. This whole the Queen's quarters and the balcony is that's a reuse of the King George and the Ducky castle. So, the textures on the inside are different. So it's a little changed up, but we used that same set. And originally the script had called for them being in a dining room, but we wanted to economize the set, so we just said, hey, let's just set up a table in her quarters. She's got advisors and subjects, so they can load up a table during mealtime. So this is a Princess Bride ode. Inconceivable.
There's the lazy Susan doing the switch.
That's right.
Although they didn't have a lazy Susan in Princess Bride.
No, he just kind of hid the vials behind and did the switch, and then they had the battle of wits to figure out what was the poisoned vial.
I wonder if Sweetpea has the antidote built up. Isn't that what happened in Princess Bride? He had built up an immunity.
Yeah, he had built up immunity, so it
didn't
wouldn't have
matter
mattered.
which,
Yeah, well, that would have been an interesting thing to she actually ends up if you play the Lazy Susan in slow-mo, she picks up a different one, which one of her advisors ends up drinking later because he's thirsty and he falls asleep. So we don't answer the question of how he wakes up. Maybe that's in a different episode.
This is what I like here. She's starting to really, speak what she believes and is true about her, and you start seeing the mirror get nervous.
Yeah, he gets nervous, and the queen really starts to
take
her.
it in.
Yeah, she starts to hear her. And we wanted to, when we were developing it, really figure out, at what point does the queen really start to turn, and when does her character arc, and it starts here. We start to see it, and later it comes, when the mirror
Love
has
that shot.
Sweetpea on the turret. And as she's really turning, then she starts to go back to her normal self. She starts to lose her, rabbit teeth and her, bushy eyebrows and facial hair. Not that there's anything wrong with that.
My eyebrows are too bushy. Ooh, the true nature of the mirror is also being revealed.
That's right. It's a very Sherlock Holmes moment
Yes.
right here.
Knowing one day he could overthrow the monarchy.
What? Then why were you helping me?
I wasn't.
One of the challenges for this mirror too was to make him, the bad guy and sinister, but not make him scary.
Not too
you know?
menacing.
Yeah, not too menacing. So he's got that menacing voice and that menacing look, but he's also sort of ridiculous. I mean, just watching him walk like that, it just makes me laugh. Just that ding 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 ding. So he's this big, tall, menacing mirror, but he's also very ridiculous.
So hand over that crown.
Not if I have anything to say.
The Prince to the rescue. It's funny with Larry as a hero. We do the same thing in Larry Boy. He comes as the hero, but he never really does anything.
He's a bit of a bumbling.
He's a bumbling hero. He tries hard, but at the end of the day, he does help with Petunia. He catches Petunia, at the end here, and they bounce down on the, on the peas. But he's not quite the hero that he hopes to be. Okay, here goes the singing action scene. The action scene was actually a real big challenge for production because typically with animation, what you'll do is you'll record all the voices first, and then from there you'll go into animation, and then once it's animated, it'll go into score. So you're scoring, in this case, Kurt Heinecke, who does our score, is scoring to finished animation, so he can pick up all of his cues and everything. The challenge with this scene is we couldn't have them singing this. We couldn't have them singing the score until the animation was already done, and so it was sort of a chicken and an egg thing. So we edited the version first of the action scene, and then had them animate that, and then we had. No, I'm sorry. We laid it out in storyboards, and then Kurt wrote the score for it to storyboards. We brought that back to Phil. Phil sang it as Kurt had written it, and then that went into animation. So it was just much more complicated than it normally is, but I think it turned out really fun. So it's really fun to kind of see these guys react.
I think we do action scenes well. I'm just recalling, our most recent release, Saint Nick. I love the scene where they're going through the snow. And of course, what became the iconic image for us was when, they're in the sleigh and it crosses over and you see the moon in the back. It's just kind of that Santa Claus.
Yeah.
See, we got so many comments on that. But,
Oh, yeah.
They're in and out of the village and there's chasing scenes. And
Yeah. And just this whole, climbing to the top of the castle.
Right.
This was a very much a Beauty and the Beast, sort of ode right here.
Right.
But it's great if you can have, just from a story structure standpoint, you have your action climax and then your kind of emotional climax, and I think our most successful shows, those two are overlapped when the main character has her epiphany. Right in or around the action scene, you kind of have these really exciting moments building up to, the realization of the character. So,
Look at Sweetpea. She had immunity. She awoke.
the turkey dinners always make me
Yes.
sleepy.
Forget the apple cider.
There he is.
Oh,
I think he's gonna have to be kissed by a frog.
that was the real culprit. Now she's back to her real self.
Yeah, she starts to go back. Yeah, and then she's transformed back to her real self by now.
Did you add the beauty mark?
Well, she's always had that. She's always had that beauty mark, which also Mr. Lunt has too as well. So he's beautiful on the outside and the inside. I like these little bath toy noises that the peas have when they bounce. Remember in the original version of the script, Larry and Sweetpea were going to get married.
Oh,
Remember that? And we talked about
yes.
that. We had a discussion about that. Is how do we end this? Because most princess stories end with the prince and the princess getting married.
It ties up in a bow.
It ties up in a bow.
Happily ever after.
But really, if you look at this story, it's called Sweetpea Beauty, but the real hero in the story is the queen, because the queen is the one that learns the lesson. She's the one that starts at the beginning wanting, to be crowned queen again. And to really wrap up the story, it's it really needs to wrap up with her being recrowned queen again. So we forewent the wedding and ended at the coronation.
Well, I can't help it. I think the story, we also, there's spots of just reality here. It's the queen is the hero, and she's in part the hero because she learned from her mistakes.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
She was teachable.
Yep. She
And I
made
think
that
sometimes
journey.
sometimes as parents, what we can, not meaning to, we can tell our kids, all about what they should aim for, but how much do we ever, kind of teach them about how to handle mistakes or missteps, which we all have.
Yeah.
And just how
absolutely.
God can redeem them, and
Yep.
if we remain teachable.
Yep.
That's
Absolutely. Oh, I was thinking about the mirror, and what happened to the mirror. Obviously, and the rumor, there's a couple of times, most of the time we redeem our villains, but except for when our villains are vices. So if you look at, the rumor weed or the fib from outer space, So those villains sort of don't represent, actual people, redeemable people, but more vices. And so, we broke our mirror. He ended up in shards. So, but we didn't want to make that too scary either. So we did it in a way that I think was pretty fun with a wah 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 wah.
And reveal her true beauty within.
So our
I
little
love
coronation
this.
ceremony.
Yes.
That queen. See,
Great
I think
musical.
Petunia would have a hard time being the queen too, because that crown would just crush her.
Yes.
She's gonna when she does eventually marry the prince and become queen, she's gonna need to get something more dainty. Maybe she can borrow Snooderella's crown.
Yes. But see, Sweet Pea Beauty, she wasn't greedy for power.
That's right. She wasn't acting behind the scenes to grab the throne.
Wow, that was great.
So we made over for folks who didn't see Pistachio, our last show. It's when we had the countertop makeover, and so kind of going forward with our countertops, we have our new QWERTY and our new blue wall. That was the big deal with the last makeover. They just painted the walls blue, and that was it. But it's fun just sort of having our new QWERTY with video mail.
We didn't get any comments on the blue wall or QWERTY, so if any of you out there want to let us know you noticed.
Oh, I heard a few. Not on the blue wall. I don't know if anybody noticed the blue wall. That was subtle.
We didn't hear about the blue
Oh,
wall.
really? Didn't? Yeah,
no,
I didn't
not
hear
through
about the blue wall
customer
yet.
service. Now, we did hear about the change in the theme song, how we tightened up the pace.
Oh yeah. That the theme song was like a minute and a half, and now it's under a
Right.
minute. Just it's
Right.
just a little quicker and
You know,
peppier.
we had some folks that noticed.
Yeah.
They didn't have a negative reaction. They just noticed the change.
Yeah, just noticed
you know.
the change. Yeah, I think if it would have been too different, we would have
Right.
heard about
right.
that. So.
But this just kind of tightened it up and.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that was nice, and reanimated it too.
We
And
basically
brought the whole cast in it to
we
sing.
pulled out the spa in the box, and we
That's
applied
right.
it to the theme song.
Yeah. Brought this back from Minnesota Cuke in the Search for Noah's Ark.
Could do that.
Noah's Umbrella, sorry.
What's on the inside? That's what God sees.
That's right, Larry. And I'm beautiful just the way
Oh, that's cute, and that's adding in that live action.
Yeah, it's really
component.
fun.
It's
really
really
fun.
fun.
Yeah, I think that helps really kids to relate. And we did the first one last time, and we just got some good reactions about that. And I think it just I know kids love to watch other kids and to see that they're learning that lesson, and an actual kid is learning that lesson is great.
It's one of my top 40 things I want to do. Is I want to be in QWERTY.
Okay, all right, we'll have QWERTY and Leslie and QWERTY. Let's talk a minute about this song
Oh,
about
gosh.
Nicole Nordeman over the credits. This is such a beautiful song, and I know initially, Leslie, you reached out to Nicole,
Right.
I think your manager, to
Yes. This has really been, I think Nicole would say, if she were here, that if not her life message, certainly one of her top life messages about how, our beauty, it's inside what counts. And when we, showed her the concept of the story, and really we started with just the message that we wanted to, resource parents with and resource our fans, both girls and boys, so that they could be really ministered to. She went nuts.
Yeah, and I know she had obviously spoken on the topic and sung on the topic, and so that's kind of what made us want to say, hey, I wonder what she would think about doing a song for us. And it was neat just having her watch the storyboards at the time. She hadn't, the show wasn't done, but she came back with the song, and when she shared it with us, it was just the real rough version, just her on piano, and she was saying, I hope you like this. I'm not sure.
It was just we were all stunned. We
we're
just
just like,
in the office
amazing.
we listened to it, and we were just practically dancing up and down.
Yeah.
She really so much got the message. It's such a beautiful song.
Yeah.
And then people will have to make sure to enjoy, as one of the bonus features, we shot a whole music video of Nicole singing the song. And I love how they introduced the mirror as a prop in the music video.
Yeah.
And she just comes alive, when she sings it in person, and you see that.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Oh, it's just lovely. And by the way, I'm just going to have to comment again here, Mike, that you've really embraced the woman inside of you. These credits with the pink.
Yeah, we went all out, pink swirlies and the whole thing.
It's just, you've really got it.
When Brian Roberts, Ron Eddy did the title design, and Brian Roberts helped to do the animation for it. It was really funny. In an initial pass, he did a gag reel where it came up, directed by Mike Naraki, and then quotes appear, or parentheses, a quote appeared, "Not a girl," just so it was clear. But it was fun. But Ron and Brian did a great job on these credits, and of course, just watching all these names go by, people who worked really hard on this, just to really appreciate all their efforts.
It's all the Big Idea team, isn't it, that makes this what it is?
Yeah, and the folks in Hawaii,
aloha
Hawaii folks. All right, we got the Big Idea logo. Bob and Larry turned it around. Well, thank you everybody for joining us today. It's been a pleasure. Talking about Sweetpea Beauty.
Thank you. Bye.
Well, hello there. Welcome to the commentary for It's a Meaningful Life.
I'm Mike Naraki, the voice of Larry Cucumber, and one of the writers on It's a Meaningful Life.
And I'm Brian Roberts, the director of the show. And I got listed as a producer this time too, which was fun.
That's fancy.
That's never happened before.
How's it feel to be a producer?
There was nobody else to put in as producer.
Did you get to yell at people?
No, I don't yell at people. I'm more of the passive-aggressive type. So hey.
Passive-aggressive-ooser.
Enough about me.
That should be a good title, passive-aggressive-ooser.
We're so excited you guys are joining us for a walk through this show with us today. And this part is the opening. You've probably seen it before.
It's still could be new to people if they haven't seen it. It's only been around. This particular opening's only been around for about 3 shows now.
Yeah.
So.
And it's a good one. We were just talking before we started recording about how I kind of miss seeing the old clips of the old shows in there because they don't really stand up against the new clips.
It's my theory is people have better memories of the actual animation of the original VeggieTales, and if you remind them what the actual animation really looked like,
they'll go like,
ooh, that didn't look too good.
I still think they looked great, especially because they were so cutting edge.
Yeah.
So this countertop was fun, although when we were talking about the countertop setup for this show, one idea we had was to show what VeggieTales would have been without Larry, which we were going to do at the end of the show. And sadly, that never happened because we ran out of time, which was too bad. But we still get a little bit of that idea here when Bob starts telling Larry that he messes everything up, and then Larry kind of won't respond to Bob. How did you feel when you were recording this, Mike?
Oh, I remember just hoping that Bob didn't sound too mean. It's like, oh, that Bob, he sounded like a jerk. But Phil actually delivered it really nicely, so it feels very innocent, like he didn't mean to hurt Larry's feelings.
Yeah, Bob did go through a period where I remember when Phil would start to record Bob on the countertop. This was 5 or 6 shows ago. he would start out like at 9 in frustration and anger, and then within 10 seconds he was at 10. And it was like, whoa, hold on. Okay, let's start at 2 or 3, and then we can get to 10 by the time he's actually supposed to be upset. Because Bob always ends up upset on the countertop for one reason or another.
That Larry can be very frustrating.
Yes,
Take
he
it from
can,
me, I
but
know.
He's so sweet.
I guess it's just you and me this time.
There's the cricket. Oh, it's cute. I made that cricket.
I didn't see a cricket there. Is there going to be a cricket there in the final?
There is a cricket.
Okay.
It's just not in this
I'll
version.
take your word for it.
See, now you're getting into like production pipeline and people realizing that we record these before the show's finished. Actually,
Just
we
a little
haven't
bit.
even.
I see the little girl. She's so cute.
We haven't
That's
even written
Todd's-
the show yet.
That's Todd's little girl, Todd with 1D.
Todd Carter, he's our story supervisor.
He's
who
awesome.
You'll recognize from the credits for what, like 11 years now. He's been working on VeggieTales.
Yep.
We love Todd, and we love his daughter now too because she's adorable.
Yeah, she did a great job.
She really did. So this is.
I noticed you've gone full screen with the video mail, which is
Let's
nice.
not talk about that.
I like that idea.
That was a mistake.
Well, actually, because you can do that now with instant messaging and iChat. You can actually go to full screen, so that is kind of nice. I kept it in the box for the first 2 shows, so
Yeah, it was
it's
supposed to
nice.
be in the box, but that just didn't happen.
That's not bad. It looks nice.
So here we have our first shots of Rockwell, which you'll notice is suspiciously like the town in St. Nicholas. But we mixed it up a bit, though.
Working on another Easter show, or an Easter show for next time where it is very suspiciously like it too. Although I think they all base themselves off of Franklin, Tennessee, which is where we're
Which is
we're
why
located.
they all look similar.
That's right. We don't get out much.
So we're into the story now, and kind of from the very beginning, I think, as we first said, hey, we want to tell a story about Larry the Cucumber, learning that as a character, this character Stuart, learning that his life has meaning, and kind of very very early on, we said, well, let's set it at Christmas and fall, so it would be kind of autumnal first and then Christmassy. And then out of that came the idea, well, if it's autumn, then it's football season. And so the football element of the show kind of came out of the tone we wanted, which was this autumnal tone.
Good job, too, directing a football sequence, not knowing anything about football yourself.
Yeah, that was funny. In the early draft of this scene, written by Mark Steele, Mike's co-writer on the show, there just were no specifics about anything football-y, and so we boarded it with nothing specific football-y happening, and it just was kind of people lined up throwing a ball around. And Mike, you want to talk about your football background, Mike?
I used to be a backup quarterback on a Bible college football team. Thank you very much. That was big time.
I played football one day when I was 9, and then my dad heard the coach say some things he didn't like, and he wouldn't let me go back the next day. So that was the end of my football
You got the
career.
bones for it, though. You could be
I do
a
have the
football.
bones for it.
Yeah. So, but I played second string quarterback. I got to play in a few games, by the way, too. Had actually 2 touchdown passes. I'm very proud to say.
Wow.
So, and I was a holder too, so I held for the kicker.
So
My good
when
friend
you
Eric.
took a whack at the scene, you added a lot of the specificity of who did what, and there was this person called a quarterback who, I guess, what do they do? They throw the ball,
Yeah,
or do they catch
throw
it?
the ball. That's right.
Right.
Yeah, and there's receivers and whatnot.
And like telephone receivers. So that was a nice change when we got to be a little
Brian
more
watches
specific.
the Super Bowl for the commercials.
I watch the Oscars for the commercials too. Anyway, so now we're in General Hospital here.
It does look very General Hospital-y.
Yes.
It has that nice little fluorescent glow to it.
It does. So the dad, this was interesting. For a long time, the dad was going to be Pa Grape. And it was kind of like, it was like the day before you recorded Phil, or maybe the day we recorded Phil.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, by the way, Mike, the dad's going to be Nezer again. Because at the very beginning it was Nezer, and then I changed it to Pa Grape. And I'm very glad that we did that, because even though it turns out Nezer doesn't have a really big part in the show, I love this scene. I just think he's so charming.
Yeah.
And so he's got kind of the eccentricity that he had as Warren Muffet,
Right.
from Minnesota Cuke.
I think it's the hairdo that does it for him, and the bushy mustache.
Yeah, he Nezer's really changed as a character. We're using him more in this kind of eccentric, wacky old guy role as opposed to the villain that he certainly started out as.
Yeah.
and that's why we ended up creating Gustav for St. Nicholas, was because that really would have been a Nezzer part years ago, but it was he was so mean, it didn't feel right to put Nezzer back into that big of a villain role.
Do you remember his turnaround in Rack Shack and Benny? I was actually watching that the other day. I was fishing through for some
How quickly
audio
it
lines.
happens?
Yeah. I'm going to throw you in the fiery furnace.
Oh, hey,
and then
come
they sing
out
the
of there.
song, hey, I was wrong. Will you forgive me?
It was the same in Toy That Saved Christmas.
Oh, yeah.
All they had to do was give him, like a teddy bear. And he was like, I'm going to get rid of you. Oh, actually, never mind.
He's a quick repenter.
He is.
That's a good character
It's a
trait
good
to have.
character trait. So
Insta repent.
there we see the idea that Morty Bumble is becoming this famous football player because he caught the ball instead of Stewart, which of course plays in. So here, in this show, when I talk to my kids about the shows I'm making, they always want to know who's going to make trouble because I'm teaching them about story and teaching them about villains because they usually don't like the villains, and so I describe the villains as people who make trouble. So whenever I'm telling them about a new show, they're like, and who makes trouble, Daddy? Like, what do they do? How do they make trouble? And so in this show, the villain is Morty Bumble, but he really turns out to be more of a kind of a misdirected egomaniac than a true villain. But I'm really pleased with where he ended up character-wise.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Stewart here is he kind of does the bad stuff to himself too, so he gets
right. He does.
Yeah. Even though he's a hero.
That was an interesting moment in development when I realized that this isn't Larry in this show; it's Stewart. Because there was a part where I was pitching a scene where Petunia was talking to Larry about all the mistakes he'd made. I was playing him more as kind of a bumbler, and more of an incompetent.
Right.
And so Petunia was talking to him about all these things he'd done that were so incompetent over the years, in a gentle way. And I got this reaction of like, she's like his mother. You're making him seem like a child. And I was like, it's Larry the Cucumber. He is a child. But in this show, he's not Larry. He is Stuart Green. And I think really kind of becomes a different kind of...
Yeah, I think Married with a Family, he's got to kind of have a little bit of a grown-up attitude.
Yeah.
But still, Larry at heart.
He's still charming, I think. It comes across really well. This scene is fun. Now, this scene does not have any specific football action. It's just kind of people running around with the ball. At one point, you wanted to make it into a real game.
Real scrimmage, yeah.
A real scrimmage game. Yeah, and then I was like, well, then we have to have twice as many characters.
Yeah. That
So
was
let's
a good
just
call.
have them practicing.
Against each other. That's a good one.
Yeah. Here's Percy. I love Percy P.
Yeah. That's a nice little backgrounds. Joe Spatterford specials.
They are actually. Those are from Minnesota Cuke.
Oh, yeah.
At least the hills are. I took the hills from Minnesota Cuke and
Okay.
put them on a new sky.
Now, are those... so some of those are 3D trees and some of those are painted backgrounds?
A handful of 3D trees. Not as many as I would have preferred, but...
Yeah,
it still does hold. It holds up. Yeah, it's nice. Now this song, let's talk about this song because I love this song. We had a different song here at one point that was very specific about the lesson of the show, and I felt, as kind of we all did, that it was kind of too specific and it was making Stuart feel like, well, if he already knows the lesson of the show, then what does he have to learn?
Right.
And so we said, well, let's put just kind of a sports song here. And you went off. How quickly did you write it? It was
I think it was a day or two. Yeah. So
a day or two later, you came back with, "Hey, listen to this," and it was like, "That's perfect." It was because it's so funny and so charming. And
thank you.
And
yeah, there's just so many.
Humor.
There's just so many sports cliches. It's fun to string them all together in one song.
Yeah. So and this, of course, with the marching band, it just was fantastic.
It kind of feels like what's the Music Man song?
110 Trombones.
110 Trombones kind of has that kind of flavor to it.
Exactly.
Kind of feels appropriate too for this type of movie.
Morty Bumble, the bumblebee? Where?
I'm Jim Gordley for
I love the way that the Wild Bowl of Spores set looks.
It looks great with their colors. It's really nice.
Beautiful blue. So
it looks. With him blocking it, it looks like
Wide open
sores.
pores? Oh,
Sores.
Wide open sores.
And now it's pores. Look at that. Wide world. Wow. That's just not right.
Here we're coming up to the Munchie Dream commercial now, which was animated by our crew in Hawaii. T. Dan Hofstede, who was our animation supervisor there, who normally does 3D animation now, but used to do 2D animation, supervised a couple of his team members to create this wonderful little commercial. I was going to do it myself, but ran out of time. So I'm not good at
Pesky
time
thing
management.
called time.
Yeah. So late in production, we went to them and said, "Hey, T-Dan, you can draw, right?"
That's great.
And he's
That's
like,
nice.
"I used to work at Disney, so yeah." But I love how it turned out. They did a fantastic job on it.
Is that an ice cream sandwich he's got in front of him, or is that his stack of...
It's a stack of papers. So that's kind of a big moment for Stuart there when he realizes that Morty's coming home, because, I mean, we can talk, I think, a little bit about how what was a challenge in this show is that Stuart's journey, his heroic journey, was largely internal. He's not battling an external force. He's battling an internal kind of disposition.
Right.
And Morty is the manifestation of that, but he's not actually battling Morty. But since Morty's the manifestation of that, by him coming back to Rockwell, it brings up these feelings for Stuart about, golly, if things had turned out differently, if I'd caught that football. That's up until that point in the show, we don't really see Stuart's issues from the hospital are still bothering him.
Right. Hey, this that little conversation that she was having on the phone, didn't you tell me that came from your wife Catherine when she was teaching?
Yes. My wife was a first grade teacher, and she had a parent at one time at one school, let's not be too specific, who was concerned that that in first grade my wife wasn't doing enough to prepare their child for the SATs. And so that's kind of always stuck with me as a really funny thing to say to a first grade teacher.
Yeah, that's a good one.
And it felt like it fit here with the the themes of wanting the best for your life and for your children's lives and all that.
Right.
However, I think it is possible to go too far in that.
Now this is the voice of Stevie Joy.
Stevie Joy Rue Chapman. That's right.
She's such a cutie pie.
She did so great. I'll admit to just us small group of friends here, Mike and I and whoever's listening to this, that I was really nervous about it because we didn't audition her, and we really had no idea whether she could do it or not.
Well, part of it was, Stephen had said, "Oh, she's so outgoing and she's done this sort of thing before." So we're like, okay,
exactly.
We
Which is great, but then you still would like to audition someone.
Yeah.
But and actually, it was very late in the pre-production process. We were already animating some scenes, and we'd had a hard time scheduling her, and so we finally got her into the studio, and of course I was very concerned about it. Just concerned in that it's always hard working with children to get an honest performance out of them, and this part required an honest performance.
Right.
And so she came in, and I sat in the booth with her, and she just did a fantastic job, both with the speaking and the singing.
Yeah.
And the final result is just adorable.
Yeah.
At one point, I needed to get her to laugh, and I wanted her to really laugh because I didn't want it to be fake. And I was trying to tell her some jokes, but I'm not really good at telling jokes, and so I couldn't get her to laugh at my jokes.
Yes.
And so Stephen was
these
sitting.
Two chipmunks walk into a. I don't know what a
two guys walk into a bar. You'd think the second one would have ducked. She didn't get my jokes. So.
Hey, wait! I'm just getting your joke. That was funny.
So like Stephen Curtis Chapman was there in the other room while I was recording her. And so at one point I'm like, okay, I can't get her to laugh. What do I do? And so I looked over at him, through the microphone. He was on the other side of this glass, and I said, "May I have permission to tickle her?"
Yeah, I usually invite the parents themselves in to do the tickling.
Yeah, I didn't. I asked permission at least. And he's like, "Oh yeah, sure, go ahead." And so that's how we got the authentic laughter out of her.
Yep. Yeah, that's what I always do to my own kids whenever they're doing little VOs. You know, I need laughter. It's like, all right, time to get tickled.
It sounds authentic. Oh, here's her little song. She did so good. The scene looks beautiful too, with the stars in the sky or on the ceiling.
That brings back a lot of memories because when my kids were little, we had those, star lamps, that rotated with the little stars on the ceiling. And yeah, it just brings back fond memories.
It really looks great. This was probably the last scene to get finished on the show, so I was a little nervous about it. Like, oh, I hope it looks good, and it does. We should probably say something.
Do-do-do, do-do-do.
Those boys' mouths are supposed to be moving. They're not.
Oh, well, they're ventrilo pickles.
Ventrilo pickles. Yeah.
Do-do-do, you know what? I can do without moving my mouth.
Oh, good.
It's a good skill.
There's a little continuity error back there. This
That
is
must
actually
be one of
supposed to be
those Posturepedic foam mattresses where you can jump and it doesn't really move anything else.
Drop a bowling ball and not disturb your partner.
Yeah, for people who want to
What
put
are
a
you doing with
glass of
bowling
water
balls
on their
in
bed.
Glasses of wine. There's Mrs. Josephson. That was Carrie Pisapia did that voice for her.
Oh, who's also the voice of
Who's
Ellen.
also the voice of Ellen.
Yeah.
Or Linda.
Linda, yeah,
Dulce.
that's right. Yeah, Linda Dulce.
Which
Sweet
in
Linda.
Spanish means beautiful sweet.
Yeah, beautiful sweet. Yeah.
It's the unflattering hats are hilarious. That's something that Mark Steele came up with.
Yeah.
Just showing kind of the reach of Bumble Enterprises. That just put his name on it and it sells silly looking hats.
Yep.
Here's the magical remote-controlled helicopter. It's one of
With
those
no
things,
pilot?
Like, yeah, it has no. Watch, there's no pilot until the end. Like, it's darker now, so it's harder to see inside. But at one point, that bubble was completely transparent.
Yeah.
And so it's like, oh, well, who's flying it?
Well, maybe he flies his own copter.
Well,
Or
no,
you mean he wasn't even
Yeah,
there.
there was nobody in it.
Oh, wow.
So the darkened bubble helps a lot with
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I didn't notice. I wouldn't have known.
there's the little football team.
Oh, wow. Those are creepy little faces.
They're Morty Bumble masks, can't you tell?
I've seen that in a horror movie once, I think.
I love Lunt in this kind of a role because it's he's, as we were talking about villains earlier, he's conceited and he's maybe overreaches a bit, but he's really entertaining the whole time.
Yeah,
and he
yeah.
never has ill intent.
Right.
So for me,
He just thinks
makes
he's
a
a
really
neat-
fun character.
He
here.
just thinks he's a neat guy.
He is a neat guy. He's a fun guy.
Yep.
Actually, he's a squash, not a fungus. But the cafe of the day.
That's one big
Maca Chiquito.
Maca Chiquito. Yeah, I remember trying to say that in the
Maki Chaquiquito.
Maki Chaquiquito. It took me a few times to get through that.
Well, and even then, I don't think we said it right. Mark had a really specific way he wanted it
Yeah, didn't he
said.
have somebody ordered that one time when he was at a Starbucks or something? Is
Somebody
that how
said,
that
I'd
went
like a caramel maca chiquicato or something like that. It's much like the SAT joke. It stuck with him.
No pun intended.
This is a really fun scene, though, this kind of back and forth between Stuart and Morty.
This town could use me. How's the toy train business? Not what it used to be, eh?
We do just fine.
Not according to this chart.
Where'd you get
Profit.
I made it. Arrows on
Oh, yeah, there's the
front.
S.
No, I mean, how do you know this stuff?
Oh, you can find out anything if you're rich enough.
Boy, isn't that true.
Guess what I found out?
What?
You're behind on all your
This scene's
Oh,
interesting.
I just thought of something. You want to talk about this? You want to talk about my cold?
Oh, yes.
That'd be a good thing to talk about.
Thank you. Let's talk
Man,
about the cold.
I had a terrible cold, and then I lost my voice
goodness.
for probably
It was 4 weeks.
Like 4 weeks. And I remember I was scheduled to record, and I was coming up to it, and I didn't see how I was going to do it. And then Laura Neitsling here said, you know, she used to work in the recording industry. And she said, well, a lot of times when singers will go out on the road, they'll go, and their voice is down, they'll go get steroid shot. You know, it's like, okay,
Right.
let me try that. So I went to the doctor, and sure enough, that was one of the things. And it wasn't a shot. I got pills along with, you know, antihistamines and, you know, antibiotics.
Maybe that's the
and everything.
problem, is that you didn't get a shot.
Yeah, but it was, it took me forever. So I tried to recover. And then I remember I did come back and I was able to record, but it was sounded
We
so
recorded
pathetic
you-
and made your eyes water.
I think total, we probably recorded you 5 different times for this show.
Oh, man.
And like 2 of them, we recorded all the same stuff.
Yeah, because I did
'Cause
end
we'd
up recording
recorded a
that
big
day.
chunk.
Yeah.
But it turned out to be largely unusable.
Yeah.
And I think we got like halfway through the script that day, and we were like, "Yeah, Mike, this just isn't working."
Well, I felt like I was on the edge of doing irreparable damage after
Yeah,
a while
exactly.
there. So,
So that was so hard, you know. But we were up against this hard deadline of we have to send the show to animation,
right?
And they can't animate it if they don't have your voice.
Yep.
So
Yep.
I think forget how we worked it out, but like they worked on some other scenes or something like that that didn't need your voice.
But I can still kind of tell a little bit when I hear the voice in certain scenes, especially at you know, even though I was getting you know, over the cold after 3 or 4 weeks, you know, it's still gravelly.
But it's not Larry, it's Stuart.
But it's Stuart, yeah, which is the other thing too. And
And
that's
at one point we tried to justify it as that. We said,
Yeah.
well, it's a different character. And
Yeah.
then we listened to what we'd recorded, and it was like, no.
Never mind.
It's Larry's husky older uncle.
Larry Boyd, I think it was the Rumor Weed. Yeah, Rumor Weed. I had a bad cold too, and you can go back and hear that in that performance.
That worked well there, though, because Larry Boyd really is
he is more gruff
and gravelly.
Yeah.
So here we're coming up on the 110% reprise. This was another thing that you added to the show. Originally, Stuart, when we had the scene all boarded with Stuart destroying the factory with him there all by himself, like he accidentally trips over that lever, and it, you know, sends everything flying. But I felt like it just wasn't. It was just kind of it was kind of strange that it was happening with nobody there. Like it didn't have a lot of energy to it. And so you had this idea to reprise the 110% and make it a whole everybody's working to finish thing, which I think works terrific. And I love this song just as much as I loved it the first time.
Play it again. Let's do it a third time over the credits.
No, we only need this one. But I just love this kind of hustle ending with these huge explosions. And the whole animation studio did a great job destroying the factory. Yeah, it's the kind of thing like when you're doing animation for someone, you get a script like this, you go, okay, yeah, this isn't too hard, we can go. And then you get to the entire factory explodes.
Hey, did I just notice Larry's tooth was missing in certain
no,
shots?
You didn't.
Okay.
We're gonna edit that out because it won't be missing in front.
Oh, really? Okay. Oh, good. Sorry.
Or maybe we won't edit it, but you'll just know.
One of those things that we fixed ex post facto.
Yeah. Yeah, so I love how this works with kind of Morty suggesting that he was going to sell him the factory, and then that upsets all the workers who feel like they've worked so hard for him. It's a good scene. That guy, I forget the character name, but that's my friend Tori Martin, who's a great comedian and actor, and I was able to get him to come in and do some voices for us. I really had to twist his arm. He's like, oh, I don't know, VeggieTales. Nobody watches those anymore. Actually, I'm kidding. He was very excited.
That reminds me of the museum of the Field Museum in Chicago. Was that, or Soldier Field even?
Well, it definitely was inspired by Soldier Field, which probably is architecturally similar to the Field Museum.
Yep.
Since
Both
that was-
being named Field and all. Wonder if that has anything to do in both cases with Marshall Field. I'm not sure.
I think
know that
Soldier
the
Field
field-
may be that it was actually a field.
Yeah. I think the Field Museum was Marshall Field, though.
Was it?
Yes, I'm pretty
Which
sure.
doesn't exist
Because you
anymore.
usually don't make a museum about fields, because that'd be kind of boring.
Well, it used to be a field.
Yeah,
Or
for a
an
museum
island or something.
Yeah, and then it'd be the field parking lot and the field high rise.
Check it out. Stuart Green. What if
That was strangely reminiscent of Wizard of Oz right there.
Yes. And this is strangely reminiscent of the Polar Express, without the Tom Hanks animatronic.
Yikes. So the train, the What If Express, I was so excited about when we decided to do a show with a train, because I've been trying to get a train into VeggieTales for years. Going all the way back to Mo and the Big Exit. I really wanted to have a train in that.
That would have been good...
But it never fit into the story enough to make it worth the expense of making a train.
Right.
You know, because that's a fairly big investment budget.
Yes.
So, love the train.
Absolutely.
So, hey, the silly song. Who wrote and directed the silly song there?
Oh, yeah, I did the silly song. So I just kind of thought it would be fun to do a silly song starring Junior. Of course, Larry's done a bunch. Mr. Lunt's done a bunch.
Has Junior ever starred in one? Because he was in Cebu, and he was in The Boys in the Sink.
And Hairbrush, yeah. But this is his first starring role. In fact, this is an all Lisa Vischer silly song, too, because she's the voice of the mom, too. She's got a great singing voice, you can tell with Mom there, but also with Junior.
This is actually the first time we've seen Junior's bedroom, too, since Wonderful World of Autotainment. And in that, it was only like a wall and a bed.
And a bed, yeah.
So we had never had his full bedroom in Maya. You know, those of you who've been following these for a while will remember the Big Idea used one kind of software up through Larry Boy and the Rumor Weed, and then we changed to a new kind of software. And when we did that for King George and the Ducky, we've used that ever since.
Right.
So anything before King George and the Ducky, we can't use anymore.
Right.
So we had to basically design a new bedroom for Junior.
Yeah. But this was obviously inspired by my own experience as a parent, and both of my kids are and continue to be like this, where they'll keep asking for more and more stuffed animals, and my daughter in particular would just be buried in animals by the time I left her room.
It's really not about the animals, right? It's about the attention, don't you think?
Well, I don't know. I mean, she loved her little stuffed animals. I mean, she's 12 now, and she still sleeps with a bunch of stuffed animals. She'll just line them up.
But she doesn't make you get them anymore.
Right, she doesn't make me get them anymore. And then my son, like, he has this big bear. We just got him out of the washer. His name's Chestnut. He's a bear that weighs about 40 pounds. He was getting really bad. We had to throw him in the washer. It took about 3 days to dry. But yeah, it's just this whole idea of this opera that goes on, this interaction between parent and child as they're going to bed, and just thought it'd be a fun little operetta. And then taking that idea to Kurt, I wrote the first version of the song and took it to Kurt, and we worked it into this real fun opera. And then recording Lisa singing it was a blast, because it was pretty difficult song to sing, and she really nailed it. So it was a lot of fun. Yeah, it took a little time. It took a little time, but it was really, really fun to do.
Back on the beautiful train.
So this is kind of like the Wild, Wild, Wild West too. You kind of get that. Remember that show was that Robert Conrad?
No.
Well, Will Smith did a movie version of it. I'm trying to remember the original TV version.
How is it like that?
Well, it's like you know what got me thinking about that? You were talking about Mo and the Big Exit, putting a train in Mo and the Big Exit.
Yes.
And that's like this techno train world, Anyway,
they really did have trains in the Old West movie.
Yes, they did. They had trains, but it was more of a technological thing.
This is just a regular train, though.
Just a regular train.
And
yeah, so I just got off on a straight tangent, strange tangent.
Yes, you did.
It was in my hand all along.
Huh? How'd you do that?
I'll tell you, Stuart. I've been driving this train for 100 years, and I still don't know how it does anything. Sit anywhere you like, but buckle up. It's gonna be a bumpy ride.
I told you I can't leave. Hey!
I told you to buckle up.
Where are we going?
Wherever it is you are running to.
Hey, so there's Gabe. Let's talk about Gabe. He's a new character. So then we said, well, is there anybody in the cast we could use, so we don't have to come up with a new character? And I mean, the closest would have been George, Grandpa George. But I felt like I love Grandpa George. We used him for the narrator in Big River Rescue. He was perfect for that because he was very detached.
Yep.
And he doesn't have eyes. And so I felt like he just wouldn't work in this role, because this role really had to be very compassionate and kind of, gently lead Stuart through this journey. in ultimately a very gentle but firm way.
Was that bird the one from Sweet Pea Beauty, by the way?
I don't remember.
We had a little bird flying around. Okay, just a little side
So I didn't want to use George because I felt like it just wouldn't work without eyes, because he needed to be a compassionate character. And so Gabe ended up being kind of a cross between George and Charlie Pincher.
note there. Yes.
But he was originally going to be a piece of corn, and it got textured as corn, and I saw it and I was like, yeah, that's not going to work.
I remember seeing that.
So like very late in production, I said, okay, you know what? Make him a crookneck squash. So that's what he is.
Those are very tasty. They're good in stew.
They are. And what's interesting, after I decided to make it squash, I actually realized his shape actually works better as squash. And because I'm growing squash in my garden this year for the first time.
Are you?
And what's interesting, Gabe actually makes a really good squash because his foot is like the vine where the squash attaches to the vine.
Yes.
But then his hair, which was supposed to be corn silk, actually looks like the flower that's on top of squash when you pick them off the plant. Because squash, the squash fruit grows between the vine and a flower.
Okay.
And so they end up with a flower on top of them. Which, by the way, did you know that cucumbers are pokey? when you pick them, like when they're on the vine, when you pick them off the vine, I never knew this because I'm also growing cucumbers this year.
Yes.
They're like spiny, and you have to wipe the spines off. And so usually when you just do it when you pick it because they just come off real easy.
Yes.
But because I'd never grown them before, I never knew they had prickly spines on them. That was like kind of a revelation.
I did not know that.
Yeah,
I did, but I was briefly distracted by the Statue of Liberty on Larry's 4-foot tongue.
I can see how you could be distracted by that. It's a fake tongue. It's not his real tongue.
Oh, that's good.
Sneak up on me like that. I wasn't sneaking.
That was another fun little song by Mark Steele.
What's
Yeah.
going on? Why am I right
I love
here
this little
and
jingles.
over there? I told you.
So this is a big moment for Stuart. He sees himself as this, what we call famous Stuart, who got everything that Stuart thought he wanted.
Certainly what you could.
And he's still miserable. That was a fine line, even once we got to editorial, after the script was finished, of, how much we wanted to say about why he's unhappy, and we didn't want to make that big a deal out of, all rich people are miserable.
Right.
I mean, in fact, all throughout this show, there's lots of fine lines we walked.
Well, it wasn't really about it, because he's the same. He's as discontent, in his life here as he is in his rich life.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. And so,
But
and
it was
the
a
other
delicate
line,
balance.
and the delicate balance. The other line too was just not wanting him to be too frustrated and estranged from his family. He obviously loves his wife and his kids, and
You mean at the beginning?
Yeah, at the beginning. Yeah. So we didn't want to make him too much, too depressed and ready to get away from it all. But so that was another.
Yeah, that was
line.
a big change we made. Because originally he got the ticket and then he went to the train station, and then chased the train down as it was leaving.
Right.
And it just felt like, golly, that guy's running away.
Right.
And so we pulled that back to, hey, what if the train just shows up in the stadium and he just kind of accidentally gets on?
Right. And
Made it feel less like he was running away. Another fine balance that we had to work on was not saying that Larry's life now is meaningless, that famous Stuart's life is meaningless because he's not married and doesn't have kids, and regular Stuart's life has meaning because he's married and has kids. I even toyed with, well, what if Petunia, in this next scene coming up here, what if Petunia's married to somebody else in that scene?
Yeah.
Or because what we didn't want to say is, if single people aren't complete until they're married, but ultimately the way that it is now is what kind of felt the truest to these characters. And
well, just the whole idea of God has a plan for each individual, and and it's about living that plan and being content in it, regardless of your situation, which is a cool thing.
Here's our Back to the Future scene. Remember that in Back to the Future?
Yep.
Was it Back to the Future 2, I think?
Yeah.
When they went back in time Wait, that was. I mean, Back to the Future, they went forward in time, but at some point.
Oh, they went back in time.
When was the version when they came back to town and it was all like? I guess that was the future one. In the future,
Yeah.
because Biff had taken over.
Right.
The town was all run down and
Yeah.
you know, all sorts of seedy elements had taken over.
Right.
So Stuart's gumdrop teeth is our version of seedy elements. So we have to be careful about what kind of seeds we use in VeggieTales.
This is looking a little bit like Breckenridge, this little town with ski slopes there. This little Victorian set with tall hills.
Poor Petunia, she's an old maid. So there's Gordon got one line in this show. The bully from Bully Trouble. He wasn't supposed to ever have any dialogue, but they accidentally animated the Gord saying the line that the P was supposed to say, and it was just a whole lot cheaper and easier to record the voice of the Gord than it was to reanimate the whole shot.
Especially since that's you.
Exactly. So I'm like, oh, don't make me say
Don't make me do that.
Don't make me say.
Oh, I want to just point out what a great job Alan Lee did with the voice of the conductor.
Yeah, so
we started
back to
talking
Gabe.
about
we did an
talking about
audition
Gabe.
process, and after we couldn't use Steven, we auditioned a series of fantastic people who all gave great auditions. But Alan's kind of just a real go-to guy for us because he's got a great range, and just in this case with Gabe, just really, I think, captured the heart of this character. Not making him too judgmental, but making him just this gentle, caring guide.
Right, and his voice just is authentically older too.
Yes.
He doesn't have to try to fake that. So it really works out well.
This scene was another one that we really pulled back on to change. It started out really traumatic, where Emma practically gets kicked out of the orphanage by the woman who runs it, and it was this long, protracted scene where she gets kicked out and then ends up in the cold and clutching her bear as the snow swirls around her, and we just kept pulling it back and cutting until we ended up with just and then at one point, even when she was inside the orphanage, she was going to sing a whole verse from the song, and I think it was you actually that was pushing me. To like, she doesn't need to sing the whole song, just have her sing the doo-doos.
Yeah, doo-doo-doo.
And I was resistant to that at first, but ultimately, that's just, that scene is extremely simple and short.
Yes.
But man, it still busts me up. But it feels authentic. Rather than manipulative, because it was the other way it was going. It was going towards very manipulative and very like, we're gonna make you cry,
whether you want to or not. I like the kind of the ice pack on the snow. That's nice.
The sparkles.
Yes. It's snowed, gotten warm, and frozen over again.
It's a glacier.
Yes.
Glacier. So Gabe turned out terrific. Emma turned out great. It's very challenging to put new characters into our world, and I get really stressed out every time I have to work on a new character.
It's a lot of pressure. Yeah, it's just an unknown quantity.
It really is.
And a lot of times you don't know like how if you're going to carry a character forward into new shows because you just don't know how they work out and if they fit in. But some work out better than others. I mean, there's obviously Madame Blueberry and Paw Grape. I mean, pretty much every character besides Bob, Larry, and Junior, were introduced for specific story points and then just hung out in the cast after that.
Yay, Stuart made the right choice. I was hoping he would. So the train, back to that, I actually got to design that myself. I was kind of selfish and kept it.
The train?
Yeah.
This train that you've been trying to introduce for years?
Right, the train I've been trying to introduce for years rather than letting Joe Spataford do it. We haven't talked about Joe and what a great job he did on this show.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Which, of course, he did a fantastic job. Yep. Lots of beautiful locations. But, yeah, so the train I did myself just because I wanted to.
Take a look out the window. The view might just take your
This shot was one of my biggest sources of stress the whole production, because I just was always concerned that it just wasn't going to do what it needed to emotionally. And even when we were doing the sound, the music and the sound effects, we didn't have anything in there.
Yeah.
And so I was like, just make it a big flourishy kind of thing. And so in the end, I ended up just doing it myself. And I love it because I'm amazing. I do everything. Remember this? We recorded this little do here on your birthday.
Yeah, on my birthday.
On the last day of the mix.
Yeah, I remember we came in. I was going to come in to listen to the silly song.
And I was like,
and
by the way...
my wife and kids were taking me to Buca de Beppo.
I said, by the way, I need you to record one little part.
But I'm going to Buca de Beppo. So, but it didn't take very long.
Thank you, Mike.
You're welcome. I ate way too much anyway. I didn't need any more time there.
The whistle. There's a lot of whistles in the show. Have you noticed that? There's coaches' whistles and conductors' whistles and work whistles and train whistles.
It's almost a theme.
It's not a visual theme. It's an audio theme.
Oh, Stuart.
Here's the whole town.
Isn't it wonderful? I told everyone that you
It is
refused to
wonderful.
sell the factory. And they
Some
all
of the worst
came
hops in
out.
veggie history.
The whole town.
Well, it's cold in that factory.
I don't want to stand on the floor too long.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, Stuart's back. Might as well make this a party.
Magically appearing Christmas tree. Where'd that come from?
He threw the switch. I saw him.
What, did it pop out of the ground?
So now that factory, is that based off any other veggie factories in the past?
It's not based off of it. It is the factory from Easter Carol. But we added some things to it. We took out some things and added some things. So, I mean, basically the walls, ceiling, and floor are the same.
Yeah.
Every day,
The
Emma.
rest is new.
Every single day.
Poor Art back there. Like, forgotten child.
Hello, Art. Hey, Art.
Hey, what you doing back there, little guy?
Mike Wazowski.
Mike Wazowski.
You tell Teddy that our lives are special because we have each other. That's God's plan.
Emma's little curls are so cute.
Yeah, they were tough, man. It took a while to get those just right.
Nobody would ever help me.
At one point, Emma was supposed to be pink. I wanted her to be pink, but I lost that fight.
Yeah, it's just, it was too, well, I guess rhubarbs can be kind of red-ish. Yeah, sort of went out of the vegetable kingdom color world.
I love this little joke here that
You know,
I just had this strangest train ride. That as Stuart was on the What If Express, Morty was too. That's a nice little wraparound there.
Very Twilight Zone-ish.
Merry Christmas, Gabe.
Good job.
Kurt did a great job on all the music there too.
Yes, good job,
like
Kurt.
I always say this.
Good job, everybody.
Wow,
So,
Larry,
you
that
know,
was great.
Thanks, Bob.
what's been interesting for me on this show was that it's been a really surprisingly personal kind of story for me.
Would you like to lay down as you talk about this, Brent?
You know, like,
Oh, cool.
oh, you haven't seen that?
Oh, I haven't seen these little...
As I'm trying to be all personal and deep and
sorry.
meaningful.
I just couldn't go there. I was looking at
oh,
the
pretty pictures, colors.
Oh, you did all those? That's very
No,
nice.
Hawaii did those.
Oh, Hawaii did,
T-Dent
okay. T-Dent,
and his
okay.
crew.
Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, go
So
back. Surprisingly
what's been
personal.
surprising for me is that I mean, I work at Big Idea, obviously. And VeggieTales is kind of this big. I don't want to say it's a machine, but it's much. The films I make here are much bigger than my directorial vision. Because they're part of marketing plans and all these other things. But this story has is just really personal for me because I'm kind of the opposite of Stuart in a way, and yet I struggle with all those same demons that he does about feeling that what I do is not that what I do for work is meaningful, but just that life in general is meaningful. It's one of we all have our different things that we struggle with, and this is definitely one of my big demons in my life. So it's and then like my dad actually owns a factory and he wants me to come run the factory. And like for me, directing VeggieTales is the equivalent of having caught that football. Like if I weren't doing this, there would be nothing else I would rather do than come do this. And yet there's still days that I go home, frustrated and angry, and like these are issues that I think everybody deals with at some point in their life.
Oh, absolutely.
But certainly for me, they're really core.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's been a good process for me.
That's cool.
Going
That's
through
cool.
this show.
That's cool. Hey, these are really well. The song first off with
Yay, the
Stephen
song.
Curtis Chapman. I mean, just it just those right like Nicole Nordeman, who wrote a song for Sweet Beauty for us. I mean, just to be able to give a script to an artist who's so talented, who just so gets the message that can turn it around into
Like
such
Matthew
a
did
beautiful.
on Give This Christmas Away.
Yeah, Matthew did the same thing on Give This Christmas Away.
Matthew
and-
West.
Yeah, and so, but Stephen just did such a wonderful job on this song.
He did. We actually made the credits a little bit longer than we usually do, just to get more of the song in. So we didn't have to chop it up.
Yeah.
But yeah, and as usual, Ron Eddy helped out with the credits, doing the designs, and then I was able to animate them. That was fun.
Yep.
Thanks, Ron. But yeah, Stephen just kind of took the script, and he hadn't even seen the show, and was able to turn it into this great lyric about how God created us for a reason.
Yep.
And He's directed every step we've ever taken.
You sound like the conductor.
I know.
All right. It's Brain Freeze Entertainment, who's Todd Carter.
Good job.
Yep. Very good. All these things in here.
And big thanks to Mark Steele and to you, Mike, for writing such a great show.
Oh, thanks, Brian. It was a real pleasure, and working with Mark has been, and you in development has just been really a pleasure over the past couple of years. So it's a fun team to be a part of. Absolutely. And
it's very meaningful and wonderful.
Is our buddies in Hawaii? Hey, Remy.
Aloha.
Aloha. T-Dan.
Mahalo.
I like T-Dan's an awesome dude.
We had shrimp at a shrimp wagon when I was out there.
Sweet. Justin. Yeah, these are all really good folks.
Yeah, this was, I will say, production-wise and pre-production-wise, this has been a difficult show. I think all the way through, and a lot of people have given up a lot and worked really hard to get it to where it is. And,
yeah.
I'm just thrilled with the final result, and thankful to all of those people who have, put their own lives on the line for getting this finished.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thanks, guys. Big thanks to Chris Wall, who was our editor on this, and also is doing the DVD production. Just big help at every point. And here's all Mark and Mike's wonderful songs. So, it's a good show. We hope you all enjoyed it.
Oh, do we still have the... How long does the thing go on?
Just another 15 seconds or so.
Okay. Because we kind of have to keep talking, right? That's the thing about these commentaries. You got to kind of go all the way to the end.
Hey.
Try to think of one other thing to say here. What about...
I like Christmas.
Christmas is nice. Christmas is great.
Although
but this is, this is a
Christmas
type
show.
of show that you could watch other times.
Or
than just
purchase
Christmas.
other times than just Christmas. You don't just have to buy it at Christmas.
That's right.
And it
There you
it
go.
makes a great Easter gift, because Easter is a good time to think about how life is meaningful.
Yes, except for we have an Easter show coming out too.
Okay,
so.
not last year. You should have bought it for Easter, not this year.
That's right.
Or maybe it'll be in a 2-pack. Just throw some eggs in.
Zach's gonna have to do some editing. I can tell right now.
No, we can leave that in.
Oh, there
All
goes
right,
Bob.
thanks everybody.
Thanks for coming. Hello, everybody. This is Mike Naraki, director of the Easter show, Twas the Night Before Easter. And we also have here Leslie Farrell.
Hi. Hi,
And-
Mike.
Hi, Leslie. Leslie is the executive producer, and Mr. Mark Steele.
Hello, Mike. Hello, Leslie.
Hello. Hello. Mark is a writer and a member of the development team and helped to shape the story as well. So we're all going to talk about the show.
That made me feel good, what you just said about me.
Yes.
And Mike, I don't know that I heard you say anything about me.
I said you're the executive producer. You are the one who executive produces and helps us to put all the pieces together to help us to make the shows.
I mean, I prefer Queen Bee.
Queen Bee, that works too. Queen Ant, or Ant Queen. Oh,
Or Aunt B.
Or Aunt B.
Or Aunt B.
Yeah,
We're
Aunt
back
B.
in Mayberry.
Yeah.
Remember when Aunt B went away and they had to make believe like they
You're
kept the house in
digressing.
order while she was away, and they to make her feel better.
Was that a
Anyways.
VeggieTale?
No, but we should do that. That would be a good.
We
one.
should do a VeggieTales.
All right, so here is the opening song, which we've talked over many times. So, and here
Love the
comes credits.
giggling.
Okay, searching for Easter eggs.
Larry, slow down. Save some
Bob
for
is
me.
is not very good at finding Easter eggs, so his basket is empty.
It's a nice little turn. You know, usually it's Larry who's not good at things and Bob who's just driven crazy by them.
That's right.
You know what's really timeless is about, Bob and Larry's friendship and journey through their lives it's timeless. Just how they are together.
It's always, I mean, it's always so fun just watching them together, and just writing for them has become so second nature because we know them so well, and just how they interact. So it's always fun to watch them.
They're kind of our Andy Griffith and our Barney Fife.
Yeah,
They
that's
are.
true.
Andy was more curmudgeonly.
In some ways, they're kind of like Archie and Edith too.
In some ways, they're kind of Phil and Mike.
Yeah, just in a slight way. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Oh, and this is I tell a story about Logan here. He's a little boy who did the voiceover here, or the video mail. But he's a friend of my son's, and a few months ago he was over playing with Michael, my son, and Logan was just telling me a story about something. I forget what he was telling me a story about, but he was so animated and just so precocious, and just the light went off. It's like, wow, he'd be really good at doing this. And he just was such a natural for the camera, so he just came in and he did a wonderful job on it.
He really is so charming in this scene.
What's in the golden egg?
It's another egg, and there's a little Russian Petrushka doll in that.
Yeah, it's a Russian Easter. We find that out at the end.
I love that they found a company that makes wicker Easter baskets the size for little vegetables.
Yeah, that's good. Those are hard to find.
Yeah, that was a new licensing deal that we just signed.
Was it?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Boy, you can
Yeah.
find the most unexpected things.
Yes. For sale now.
This is Petunia as Marley Mead, and Sydney Trent is the voice actress for this. And this is this is she's becoming a bigger and bigger character in the VeggieTales universe after Princess, the latest Princess story we did.
Well, you kind of need that straight woman after you've got Bob so high-strung and Larry so childlike.
Yeah. She's a great character.
And her hairstyle keeps changing.
No, she's always has that scorpion hair.
It
So
looks
you just
like-
kind of have to watch out. She's going to sting you with it.
It looks like she wears those scrunchies where it helps you tie it up quicker. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Remember what you call
What do they
those?
call those? Not bedazzlers.
No, bedazzlers are how you punch the
yeah.
sequins onto
Yeah, what
blue
do you
jean
call those
jackets.
things? What do you call
She
those
had
things
one of
with
those.
hair?
It'd be a totally different episode.
Okay. Yeah, and she was a reporter in Bad Apple as well.
Oh,
So this
interesting.
is her second turn as a reporter.
But she wasn't Marley Mead.
No, just a regular reporter. I forget what we called her in Bad Apple.
Our fans, we let them vote. We create opportunity where they can vote and have fun with the characters. And it was interesting. We just did a poll on fans listing, what are their favorite characters, and Petunia came in number 4.
Oh, nice.
Behind?
Right behind Bob, Larry, and Junior.
Really?
All right.
It's very interesting.
And number
Moving up.
5 were the French peas.
Oh, cool.
That's kind of cheating. That's more than one character.
That's right. That's
Did they
right.
add up together? Were they classified as one character?
They were classified as one.
Okay.
I see.
Okay.
Yeah.
I would love to know who came in last, but we probably shouldn't discuss that on the air.
Exactly, because,
It would be sad.
it would be very sad.
Yeah, it would be very sad.
Mr. Sad for Scallion number 2.
Okay, there you go.
There you go.
Scallion number 2.
It slipped.
Very,
Oops.
he's got a very
I don't know.
important role in this show.
I did not see that poll, so I do not know.
I'm the voice of Scallion number 2.
Okay, now this is we've used this set quite a few times. We've used this set on St. Nicholas, and what did we used it again in another show, but I can't remember. But the nice thing about this set is it's very much like Franklin, Tennessee, which is where we're based out of. So, kind of going from experience. It's also very similar to Lombard, Illinois, which is where we were in our last iteration of Big Idea. So just the small town USA just captures that feel very nicely. And there's actually a theater in Franklin right now that is closed down. That's being rehabilitated as we speak.
And was that going on when you plotted out this story?
Yeah, it's been going on for quite a few years. It's been taking a long time. So.
What does it say that you can produce an animated episode in shorter time than they can actually restore the theater?
All right.
Twas the night before Easter.
Kurt Heineke once again on the score here did a wonderful job. And so this is Marley moving in. She's now moved into the theater. Moving boxes are here. We kind of insinuate that she lives upstairs in the theater. They've been kind of moving her stuff upstairs, and Mr. Lunt is up there fixing the electric. But this is her new home now that she's quit her job at the TV station.
Good thing I still live with my mother.
Louis, you are a great
And
writer.
Larry lives with his mother.
There you go.
There you go.
Not just anyone can come up with that. How's the writing coming?
This is this is your guys' first time watching this in animation, right?
Oh, fully, yeah.
Yeah, so that's
Yeah.
why there's so much silence. Usually when
Well, it's a
everybody's seen it
beautiful thing. Yeah.
a few times, we'll just kind of talk over it. But
You don't want to say things too generic. Look at the green.
It's beautiful.
It really did turn out well. Up with bunnies. I love the bunnies.
Love the bunnies.
you get the Up With People.
Yeah, the 70s.
Yeah.
What happened to
It's
his
just,
hair?
It's
going
just
retro
dangerous,
punk.
dangerous with electricity, with the sparks flying through it. It's more than just static. The green wires do something, evidently.
I have a proclivity for Lunt. I think Lunt should be the comic relief in every show.
He's a great character. He's a really great character. So Marley, her character here wants to do big and important things. She feels like her job at the TV station isn't living up to that. So now she's going to, put on a show that's going to help people through the power of musical theater. And this is fun. This is our, in our script development process, we go through many ideas, sometimes many scripts. On this particular show, we changed directions on the script completely about halfway through, but one thing, or more than halfway through, but one thing that we were able to keep is a lot of the music. And this song is one that Mark wrote for the previous version of this script, and it worked in really well into this new story.
It's so interesting how some of these come to be. This was a whole lot of plot that needed to unfold in about 3.5 pages, and so turning the audition into a song was a fun way to get all these characters' motivations to pass very, very swiftly.
Pass very quickly, yeah, exactly.
Now I take it there's no mistake here to the 3 judges.
No.
Set up here.
That is paralleling what was once a pop culture touchstone, but now
Yes.
has very different judges.
Yes, very different.
But they'll always be, in our hearts, they'll always be the 3 that we remember.
1,000,000 times yes.
I don't get the whole robot thing, and it was kind of...
Would she be our Paula?
Well, not really.
Larry's more of a Paula, really.
Yeah, Larry just pretty much says yes to everything.
Yep, that's Paula.
Yeah. Yeah.
Although her line coming up here is very Paula-esque.
Most people don't know this, but the scallion all the way to the right, they modeled after my body frame.
See, the red looks fantastic on you.
Doesn't it? Thank you.
Yes.
I'm all about the peppermint stripes. They're slimming.
Now, Mike, how many total voices do you voice? And how many total voices does Phil voice?
I do about a half a dozen, and Phil does about a dozen as far as regular characters go. So, of the characters that are standing on screen right now, Phil is 3 of their voices.
Wow.
So all but the carrot.
And you're Laura.
And he's Archie. And I'm Larry. Of course, I'm Jean-Claude P. Phil is Philippe. I'm Jerry. He's Jimmy. He's Scallion number 1. I'm Scallion number 2. That's my character right there. That's Scallion number 2. The one I alluded to earlier as the least popular character.
Absolutely. Not really, though. We were
Right.
being facetious.
Oh, this theater has gotten a lot of uses. This particular theater, I think, was first used in Minnesota Cuke, and then we also used it in the Silly Song, Where Have All the Staplers Gone, and we may have even used it in Esther. Parts of it from Esther, of course, from where this is from. We borrowed this actual audio clip from Esther. We didn't even bring in Miss Ackmeatha again to sing again. We just used the original clip from Esther because it was perfect. We couldn't have done any better.
I'm thrilled that she was able to play this cameo, come back.
Yes.
And very interesting thing about Shar Jackson, who does this voice for Miss Ackmeatha.
That's a note. That is a note.
That is an actual note. And she did that, but she could not perform this without actually playing the accordion. So when we recorded her, she had the accordion in the booth to do it with because she just couldn't quite get into it unless she was playing the accordion, which she plays, and she was amazing. So the accordion performance and her vocal performance were simultaneous.
I need to use that excuse more often. I'm sorry I can't write this without playing the accordion.
And there he goes, holding that cell phone with no limbs.
Can I just say that I love America's Got British Judges? I think that's a genius little joke there. And it was not mine.
Yes, it was, we're a fan of all those reality shows at home, and so we've watched, America's Got Talent. And,
is that what it is?
Yeah, America. And on all of them, they all have a British judge, so it just makes sense. It just makes sense.
America's Got British Judges.
Yeah.
Archibald's got a purple tie.
So we're soon going to see here. Aren't we going to meet here our new character?
And special guest voice.
Yes, and
that's
special
right.
guest star.
Yes, we'll save the surprise.
Where are we going? I'm going to
What's that building behind them?
That is the homeless shelter.
Oh,
we wanted
I got it.
It's got the big sign on it.
I got it now.
And we don't mention it, but that turns into be a very important part of the plot later on. But of course, we wanted to foreshadow it, so we show it quite a bit here at the beginning.
In many episodes, we would call that an Easter egg, but we don't want to call it that on this episode because there are actual Easter eggs.
That's right.
We can't let this opportunity slip through our fingers.
Now we see a bus coming up here. It's in a white bus. But later it turns into the yellow church bus. But it's the same bus. So that's a great thing about 3D. You can just recolor stuff and it's all different.
So you're saying it was intentional. It's meant to be two buses of two different colors, but you just maximize the...
Yes, the busage.
Yes. So that's what I was going to say, the busage.
And here's Pastor Irwin.
Now, whose idea
Father
was
Irwin.
it? Yeah, whose idea was it to put the hair around the side of Bob's head?
That was a pastorly, look for Bob. I think, in talking with, I forget where that idea first originated. I can't remember if Brian did this design or if that came from Joe Spatterford. I can't remember who that came from.
Well, and Leslie, we didn't want to tell you, but Bob himself has been a part of the Hair Club for Tomatoes, and he insisted that we feature.
That's right.
He is no longer follicular challenged. I think he looks good with it. He looks sort of Martin Luther-esque.
I think so, too.
Hold the Junior.
I think so, too.
That was 95 Theses.
And this church actually is from the Star of Christmas. We reused it from there. In fact, many of the elements from the show are Star of Christmas-esque. It's sort of the Star of Christmas story adapted for Easter.
Yeah.
And so we actually had a pastor in Star of Christmas played by Junior Asparagus' dad Asparagus, and he had the little clerical collar there. So we just gave that to Bob, although he had to be refitted because he's a much different shape.
Hey, we love all shapes. There's Blueberry.
Madame Blue, her hair is a different color. She's blonde.
Yep. Mrs. B.
I was getting uncomfortable with how she lets her strand of pearls just drag on the ground like that.
In the script, she's actually married to Bob, but we would never spell that out actually in dialogue.
Does she play the organ?
Yes, she does. She does, and the piano.
The offertory?
She does. She does all of the things a pastor's wife does, right, Leslie?
Typical
you should know you're a pastor's wife.
Yes.
Does she head up the potluck?
Yes. Okay, he's suspicious.
That's
Why
right.
is he suspicious, Mike?
Well, because he wants Cassie all to himself, and we sort of, Bob's character is a lot like Marley's, or Irwin and Marley are a lot alike, because Irwin wants to put on a big show to increase church attendance. to help people. And then Cassie wants to put on a big show to help people through the power of musical theater. So they have a lot in common, even though they don't see it yet.
Don't worry, our show is Saturday night. It won't interfere.
Oh, but it will. This is a big
I have to say, I do love the title, "'Twas the Night Before Easter." I think
That's
darling.
It's a really nice title.
Yes,
Yeah.
and
Really.
was that you, Leslie? I thought it was.
I'm sure it was.
I'm sure. Top 10 ideas this episode. We don't know what they are, but we
Yes.
know who did them.
Yeah.
But it
No,
started.
it's
It
actually
started off as
Shannon Cosi.
Oh, it was. I thought it was
Oh,
you,
nice.
actually.
No, in a brainstorm, it
Yeah.
came out and loved it because it's nod to, of course, a very famous poem, but also it actually does describe the show.
Yeah. It's a really great. I mean, originally it was Easter in CRISPR County, or what was it? What
The
was
CRISPR
The
County Easter
27th
pageant.
annual
It changed many times.
Easter CRISPR County pageant.
That's right, and that went along with the original script, which then changed. But we're still in CRISPR County. But
Which I believe there's still a trailer for that never produced episode on a previous VeggieTale.
that's right. Yeah. So
It's
this
just
is all
a
very
teaser.
fluid.
It kind of,
right.
teases people to
That
look
really
at,
was
look
an
at the show
Easter egg.
differently. Yeah.
Yeah, that really
It's an
was
actual Easter egg.
And that's happened a couple times where we've changed titles of shows after trailers have gone out. That happened with Mo in The Big Exit, which was originally The Lone Stranger.
Yeah.
But it's just fun to go back after all these years and then watch the old trailers and like, oh yeah, I remember that.
For instance, this was going to be "'Twas the Night Before Arbor Day."
I mean, it might be fun for fans to realize, we've been talking about script development here. Really each of our shows are in and of themselves like a mini, feature film. They each are standalone stories, unique. It's not like we're building on like a TV series that has the same, storyline, plot line week to week. So there is quite a lot of effort and talent that's put into writing each of these stories. And, what VeggieTales is committed to, telling, hilarious stories, fun stories filled with music, but stories that also, teach a lesson about God, a lesson about, God's values and, ways that we can live that please Him and, will have us live our best lives. So that is something that we work very hard on. And Mark and Mike spent a lot of time on writing these scripts. Each of them stand alone.
Yeah, and then and then we talk about even titling and what to call the shows. I mean, so much thought is put into how to present each of these stories to make them the most interesting to people, to have the most effect. So it's just we hope that it all looks easy by the time it gets to the screen, but there's so much that goes into each episode. Sometimes there's 2 years invested in an idea before it gets on screen.
And we sometimes chuckle when we sit around the table as we look at scripts. It might be kind of funny to stick your head in and listen to people saying, well, would Laura the Carrot really feel that way?
How does
But we're that invested.
How does a pea feel?
Okay.
So
I
we
got
just
to
missed
interrupt
our,
here. Here's our cameo. You might
Okay,
recognize this voice right here.
Here are two of the most important. Here we go.
It's Leslie Farrell, yours truly, right here, and then
Yes.
Greg Fritz, who is
Passerby
our
number one.
passerby number one, and passerby number two, Greg Fritz, who's
Which is
our
a
head
far
of,
more
head of
minor
marketing.
role.
but not at the bottom of the favorite characters list.
That's right. That belongs to Scallion number two.
A couple things we missed while we were talking about our writing process. Robo Bunny, I love our Robo Bunny.
Oh yeah.
And then our little "Don't Cry for Me, Argentina" parody there.
Oh yeah, because that was originally we had done a parody from
A different
a
musical.
different
We might not wanna
musical.
talk
Yeah.
that.
A different music.
Yeah,
Well,
we thought-
we came. Actually, there were several iterations. We were
Yeah,
trying
yeah.
to figure out what would be the best to tweak and parody, and the result was there you have it, a little piece of Evita,
A little piece of Evita.
or
That's right.
or as it would be in their world, Velveeta.
That's right.
And I think that's so what we're known for. We have so many fans write us and tell us about, how much they chuckle at the nod to parody of, kind of iconic movies and plays and books. And, we that's just what's so kind of inherent to VeggieTales.
Figure out a way to get Cassie here on Saturday night. Are you guys with me?
And now here comes the big plot.
That's
Yes.
right.
Here's the turn. Act 2 begins.
but not before a silly song.
Yes.
Yes.
We should end more of those moments with run tun tun.
It's kind of run tun tun-ish.
Is it run tun tun?
It is.
The number 5, favorite characters right
All
here on
right.
screen.
Why don't
Singing for
Jean-Claude
you.
Philippe have more silly songs?
I know, I'm telling you.
Because they're so difficult to animate.
It's amazing how peas can have hips, though, isn't it? How they can just kind of stand there and move their hips.
Yeah.
So they did a great job with
Well,
animation
the
there.
black-eyed peas have hips.
That's
Their
true.
hips don't lie.
So, Mike, where did your inspiration come from this silly song?
Well, again, another, a parody of a song people may recognize
From Evita.
From Evita, but well, I'm married to my wife is Colombian, so dancing has always been part of our marriage. Actually, we met by dancing salsa. So we actually, we met
by dancing. That's how
well,
you and I met.
He's the salsa king.
The salsa king.
Well, we were actually just eating salsa, but I was dancing.
We actually met on a whitewater rafting trip, and afterwards we were talking. We had gotten the folks that went on the trip got together and were talking about the trip. And Lisa and I started talking. She started talking about loving to dance salsa, and I said, "Oh, really? You love to dance salsa? Oh, well, how does that go?" And so she went to her car and got out a little salsa tape and showed me a few moves, and then we started going out and dancing salsa. So
smooth move, no Rocky.
Thank you
To
very much.
suddenly be very interested in salsa.
I'd like you
Yeah.
to teach me
I've
how
always
to
been
dance
interested
the
in that.
salsa.
And salsa, a lot like waltz, it's got its certain steps. And so this is sort of the anti-salsa. All you have to do is hop back and forth to the left and to the right. So it's just this ridiculous little dance that anybody could do. That Jean-Claude and Philippe are making, very complicated and very important. And so Archibald is calling them on that.
Is this the first time? I think we're making veggie history here. Is this the first time Archibald has ever let himself go in an episode?
I think it might be. He of course he called off the Water Buffalo song, because that was just way too silly.
But that was
Yeah.
a high-strung
Yeah,
explosion, not
exactly.
one of abandon and joy.
That's right. Yeah, because the Hopperana is so much fun that once you get into it, you can't help yourself. You just
Well, that's
just
what
let
I
yourself
found.
go.
That time I was having sauce with you.
Salsa with me.
I just let myself go.
Those peas just look so adorable in their little bunny ears, and their
They
little
do.
bunny slippers.
And now you know all the many different uses for exercise balls.
That's right.
And we're hoping we've taught your kids what to do with your exercise ball at home.
That becomes the Super Hopperana.
Yep.
Okay, and we're back.
Run, dun, dun.
Dun, dun, dun.
Back.
Oh, wait, here you are again, Leslie.
Now that last line was read a little unusually.
It was so much fun getting Greg to say that.
Every once in a while, we pull people in who don't do that sort of thing regularly, and it's fun to get them to try new things.
That was awesome. It works. It's great.
Now, Cassie Cassava, this is interesting too. She came on stage really in our partnership with World Vision.
Mm-hmm.
World Vision said, gosh, it would be great if in doing a VeggieTales show, if you could think about introducing a vegetable that really would have meaning internationally, and in particular to countries, a lot of the countries where we work, a lot of the third world nations, the cassava root is just a main source of nutrition. Well, we took that little factoid and we started mulling around. Then we started Googling to find what an actual cassava root looked like. And
Made some modifications.
And we said, hey, let's introduce a new veggie character that is a cassava root, which we did.
That's right. And Cassie Cassava was born. And, and of course, the voice for Cassie Cassava is the one and only Melinda Doolittle.
If you want to make something that looks like a cassava lovable, make the voice Melinda Doolittle.
That's right.
Oh, she was fantastic.
And it was so perfect because obviously she was on American Idol. But the other interesting thing about her is that before she was on American Idol, she auditioned for the voice of the Bad Apple in Larry Boy and the Bad Apple. And it was before her season on Idol. And she's so sweet that she didn't fit the role because
Right.
she had to
She's
be a
so
little bit more
so
snarly.
generous and kind.
Yeah, to be the bad apple. But for this role, it was just so great to call her again and to have her be so excited about doing the part. And she just it couldn't have been better. The recording session was fantastic. Has such an amazing voice, and she's a great actress. I mean, she was able to pull off the lines really smoothly.
You survived Simon Cowell, you're an actor.
That's right.
She's precious.
But
pipes.
And we're, in our little vegetable world, we're so used to our own vegetable singing, and Bob, can carry a tune, and Larry can carry a tune. But when we get in a real singer, it's just amazing just to sit back and listen to that and just say, wow, this person can really sing. And I've felt that way before when, about Melinda, about when Matthew West has worked with us, when Winona worked with us, and it's just, vocals on a scale that just are so out there, and they're just so gifted. It's just so much fun to work with.
Excuse me. We're looking for Cassie Cassava? Yes, I'm here. That's me. Good day, Miss Cassava. We're with the legal department of America.
Here they meet.
That's right. I'm British. Their trickery ensues.
Yes.
I know we don't usually make Larry so intentionally deceptive.
Yeah, they had to kind of, trick her. We did again with the Star of Christmas, a similar thing where Bob and Larry snuck into the church to steal what they thought was the Star of Christmas, but it was actually the Turtle of Damascus.
Still gets a laugh.
Yes, but everybody learns their lesson in the end.
Has anybody seen the guy? Who are you? You look familiar. Have we met?
And Marley's trickery really, plays into her development as a character too, because her scheme that she brews up actually ends up in disaster, and helps her to learn her lesson.
This is a simple oversight on your part. We must insist that you comply with the terms.
I hear Melinda Doolittle can talk to the animals.
maybe the vegetables.
Well, once she gets her doctorate, she can talk to the
vegetables.
She can definitely. There she goes.
Yep.
Being swept away.
She's so easily deceived. I wonder if that's how they got her on American Idol. Oh no, the judges will be very kind to you. Come this way. I know that she did a lot of background vocals for Christian albums well before she was on American Idol. She was a big studio singer.
Yeah.
Studio voice. So look on those liner notes, people. Pull out your histories.
Yeah, when she came into the office to record for some of the bonus features, it was like, everyone just couldn't, stay in their offices. They all wanted to meet her and be with her. And she heard a couple of our staff, it was near or on their birthday. So she belted into the most beautiful version of Happy Birthday.
Oh, yeah.
Wow. Saying Happy Birthday to the two birthday folks. It just brought the house down.
Which is why our next episode is 'Twas the Night Before My Birthday.
Yes.
With a special guest theme song by Cassie Cassava.
It was great. We got to pull back the bunny song from Rack Shack and Benny. And again, we already had the song produced, and it was our song, so we just used the actual audio.
Very nice.
Yep.
Nice to have more than one bunny-themed song in an episode.
Well, called Up With, this particular theater show, Up With Bunnies, so we got to have a lot of bunny song. And of course, the finale, which is Up With Bunnies, where everything goes horribly wrong.
Or epic.
And this was great, too, because with Melinda, obviously, the whole crowd is here to see her sing Up With Bunnies, and it's a fairly simple lyric that she sings. And we had her just do some ad-libs just to kind of, just bring some more energy to it in the little pauses here. My favorite was "Come On With Your Bunnies." So when she sang that, we all just busted
And that
out.
was totally ad-lib.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because the original plan was to have her. You hear the announcer saying, robot. The voiceover guy was originally supposed to be her lines. But when she started singing those little riffs in here, they were just so good. It's like, okay, no, you sing the riffs, and we'll do another voiceover person. This is the supersized Gary that Howard, aka Mr. Lunt,
has built.
Has built.
He looks like a Gary.
Yep.
Is this
Big
the
Finish.
first time we've ever had a robot?
In VeggieTales, it might be. Yeah, we did the robot for Three Smiling Penguins.
It's the
Rusty.
first cyborg bunny robot.
It really is. You know, I was a Continental Singer.
Wait,
you know that? Yeah,
let's
I was
back
in
up there.
Continental-
You were what?
Yeah, I was in Continental Singers, and so the whole up with people arm raise thing, you know,
Yeah.
is
The
carried
jazz
through here.
hands. The jazz praise hands.
That's right.
They're slightly different.
Yeah, I wasn't on stage. I was actually a sound tech, so I witnessed from the board a lot of arm raising.
Speaking of
ends
hands,
of
the
songs.
cyborg bunny's hands look like tambourines. Maybe
Yeah,
he belonged
kinda.
in the gospel church.
That's right. Now, this is a matte painting right here with that destroyed top. So we did a lockdown of that shot, and what we see from above is the destroyed theater. But that was not actually part of the 3D model. That was done afterwards as an effect.
Could have been. I'd pretty much say this is a disaster.
And now the learning. Rum dum dum.
This is Marley's Oscar moment in here as she's learning her lesson.
And Larry says, I'm done.
See you later.
See ya.
I quit my job.
I'm loyal to the end. The end. Goodbye.
And Archibald's feeling a little uncomfortable. He doesn't know what to do. See you later. So she's, but she's kind of, she's tricked people. She's pushed to have her own way, and this is what she's got, and she's homeless.
Yeah. That is a very nice sign for a homeless shelter. I think they wouldn't spend so much money on the sign. Seems it could go to better things. And we've seen this veggie before where?
She was in Pistachio, I think, at least.
Yeah.
It may have shown up before then. We didn't have a voice for her in Pistachio, but her voice is done by Carrie Pisapia, who also does the voice of the homeless mom coming up here. And Carrie's been great. She's done. She first did the voice for Mr. Lunt's girlfriend in the Pirates movie. And it just did such a great job. And she lives here in Nashville, and we've used her on several things, and she's a great actress.
Easter. In a homeless shelter. It wasn't part of the plan. I just wanted to help people.
How were you gonna do that?
With a big production? I've always thought theater had the power to give people a vision of something bigger. Something more important.
That sounds nice. We've never been to the theater, Joshua.
I feel like we've seen Joshua before.
Yes, and Joshua is Junior Asparagus, which we actually had to scale him down for this shot because Junior had his actual scale with Mom sleeping in the same bed as Mom looked really odd when we first saw it. He just looked way too big. Yeah, he didn't feel like Junior Asparagus. So we shrunk him when we gave him a teddy bear, and he felt much more like a little boy.
One day we'll get back on our feet. Looks like they're helping you too.
This is a really touching scene. We've previewed this with several of our retail partners, and we've had a few tissues come out of pockets.
Oh, nice.
Which this is a great tie-in, really with the whole lesson of helping others. It just really ties it all together, that scene of Marley with the mom and little Joshua.
Yeah, she's wanted so much to help people, but has kind of made a mess in the process and realizes that she's being helped in a very simple way.
Oh, that's so true.
Mrs. Cluck, I need to go to the bathroom.
Besides, the folks here won't want to miss Cassie Cassava singing. Thank goodness she came
Yeah,
back last night.
Kurt, you talked about that scene. Kurt, just today, we're in the process of finishing up the show, and Kurt just let me hear the score for that section, and it makes it even more touching. He did a really nice job. It was just a little piano that he's playing in the background. Really, really effective.
But I wasn't helping anybody.
Even our veggies are flawed, just like real people.
This is another thing that we often hear through customer service. We'll hear about, churches that are doing, premieres as part of their children's program, homeschooling groups, families that, they watch the show and, it's really surprising. They'll say, well, watch the show. And then afterwards, just how much the kids really take in what's being taught here, and I think that's part of, where parents just feel so great about having VeggieTales in the home, is they know that this is going to, these stories are really going to reinforce, values that they want to have reinforced. And the kids really take it in. And often the songs complement. So they'll be singing songs, that are complementing the lesson. And we just hear this time and time again. And we just hold it as just a really important responsibility in our shows and stories.
Absolutely.
As long as they're not singing bunnies, 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 bunnies.
I think they get both. It's a little bit like making an apple taste like a Twinkie.
Yeah.
Right. Yep.
You can do that too?
Yeah.
You really are the executive producer.
We might not have...
Okay, this is really fun coming up here. The big bunny chase scene. And,
there's the white bus turned yellow.
That's right. That's the church bus. It's not the municipal bus. And this is great because the challenge here was, to have this feel like a huge, big scene, but yet be economical with it, so we could actually pull it off. So to give the idea that this bunny is running through this big town, through all this snow, and David Pitts, the producer, was really good about just helping us to set this up in a really economical way. So when we look at close-ups here, we're just seeing a cycled background going. So it's just cycling back and forth over and over. We have very few shots that are actually really complicated shots, but yet it feels like a really intricate scene. They're running down basically the same street many, many times.
How did our carrot first get his Scottish
It's
accent?
Benny.
It is Benny.
It's Benny. Yep.
And he was eating a donut in the road, wasn't he?
That's right. Donuts for Benny. Yep.
What kind of a message
What else
is
would-
that to send to kids? Don't
What else
eat
would-
donuts in the road, children.
Scottish carrot, yes.
Yeah, how did he get his Scottish brogue?
Well, that's Mr. Jim Poole as Scooter. He actually he first showed up. We did a Star Trek parody where he was Scotty in our Star Trek, and so Jim Poole, who was actually the artistic director at the church that Phil and Lisa and I and Kurt Heineke all went to, he's had a great Scottish brogue, and so he lent his voice to Scooter the carrot and has been Scooter ever since.
It's wonderful.
Yeah. I love that big smile on.
Yeah,
on
everyone
Gary.
should have a cyborg bunny.
With a big
Yes.
smile.
Mine's name is Steve.
Tim Hodge was a storyboard artist on this sequence, and he did just such a great job, just detailing out the whole chase scene.
Yeah.
He actually, wrote quite a bit of the dialogue in here too.
Now, here's just a note. Being this is the night before Easter, we talked about this. Some southern folks might be wondering why there was a wall of snow at Easter time.
It happens.
It
But
happens. Yeah.
our northern folks
Oh, yeah.
said, hey, it is not uncommon to have a wall of snow on Easter.
On Easter.
So that's a good question.
It would never happen in Franklin, Tennessee, but in Chicago it is
In
very,
Chicago,
very likely.
which is
Yeah.
where VeggieTales originated.
And
mind
that's
you.
what I'm wondering. Is that where our veggies happen to be? Are they in the Northeast United States? Are they in the Midwest?
They are surely in Maine.
That's right.
Celebrating Easter.
They don't grow veggies in Maine near Easter.
Crisper County. So Crisper County, it seems like it'd be by Lake Wobegon, wouldn't it?
I still think the bunny should have had a Yoda backpack.
Instead, it's a bus backpack.
I love this scene.
Yeah.
I think the kids are going to love this scene too because it's just so much fun.
Oh, yeah. Love how he kicks the bus like a horse.
And there you
Very
go.
nice.
Delivery
Made it to the church on time. Almost like a rocket car. It's great to be able to use public domain hymns, I've got to say. So, because this is exactly a hymn that you would sing in church on Easter. And we just got to sing it.
So what you're saying is you didn't write this.
Did not write this, no.
And there is the pastor's wife playing the organ.
That's right.
She did earlier while we were talking, and she had quite a riff.
Yeah, yeah. Yep, she's a jazz organist.
I mean, her non-fingers were burning.
And so the Son of Man came not to be served, but to
And
serve.
part of what we wanted to do on this show, we partnered with World Vision, who is about serving others, and our challenge was to incorporate a message about Easter and the whole concept of service. And so, this verse from Mark, that Bob just read, Pastor Irwin just read, worked in perfectly. Jesus came not to be served, but to serve. And give his life as a ransom for many, and that's at the heart of Easter. And so tying together that service message with Easter worked out really well.
Now, Leslie, is one of those you, because that's what you looked like when you were coming into the theater earlier speaking?
Yes, I have a flip hairdo.
No, I mean, is one of the? Are you singing one of the voices in the choir there?
Oh yes.
You can actually, again, we're doing this during production, so we're about ready to record the full choir. So if you want to be in the choir, it's not too late.
If you put me in the choir, you would be awfully sad.
You can do all the scats like Melinda did.
Exactly.
Come on, y'all bunnies.
Bunny
a lot
up.
Of that's an interesting production. A lot of times, a lot of the direct character dialogue, of course, we have to do before any of the animation is done. But a lot of the voicing, like with crowds, we do what's called a walla group, where after all the animation is done, we'll pull in a crowd and voice to the animation. Or if there's a big choir, we can do the same thing. We just lay down a couple of guide tracks for the animators to animate to, and then we'll bring in a full choir afterwards and finish it off. And the theater has become a park for the homeless
with
kids.
Robo Bunny.
With Robo Bunny, that's right.
Bunny.
And look, that's what's in the egg.
The golden egg.
Empty.
It's
Oh,
empty.
like the tomb. It's like the tomb.
Yep, resurrection egg.
Story of Easter.
Yep.
By the way, thanks for helping me get the egg open.
You're welcome.
Now, a couple people brought up the idea early on as we were developing the script. Well, if QWERTY is off on Sunday, why aren't Bob and Larry off on Sunday? And they've got more of a clerical job, So
well,
they're like a pastor. Pastors work on Sunday. They come and they teach their lessons.
But I would argue that perhaps this isn't a job for them. It's life for them that we eavesdrop on from time to time.
That's true. Maybe it isn't work,
Maybe
and of course, it had to take place on Easter because they're hunting for Easter eggs.
Maybe they don't work at all. Maybe
That's
they're
right.
not the role models we thought they should be. And then again, maybe it's just the economy.
But QWERTY, however, he's more of an office, equipment. So he's got Sundays off.
Absolutely.
So the church office is always closed on Sunday.
You can't leave your computer on all the time, kids.
That's right. But, he's got, the video monitor is on, but, the CPU is sleeping.
That's right. Now, it does bother me just a little bit that now they're watching kids on video, but they never stand in front of the camera.
It's a fisheye.
Is it a fisheye?
Fisheye lens,
it's a fisheye.
yeah.
For even the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve and to give his life as a ransom for many.
The Son of Man is Jesus, right, Bob?
That's right, Larry. Jesus came to serve us, even giving his
That Bible
life
has been reused a couple different times, too. I forget the first time that book came up, that particular model was used, but
I think we should reuse our Bible a lot of the time. Mike.
Yes.
That's right.
Every day, in
fact. That's right.
You got it, buddy.
But we're still cool with the chocolate bunnies, eggs, and jelly bean thing, though, right?
Absolutely.
Oh, good.
Well, that's all the time we have for today, kids. Remember, God made you
And He
special.
loves you very much.
For 17 years,
I
that
know
same tagline is on
beautiful.
every show.
And it's what drew all of us really to be involved here. Such a special message.
Right, and it's a message that we, kids ages 0 to 99, can never hear enough of.
And names, all the people it takes to get this job done.
That's right.
Big thanks to our friends in New Zealand. Hoo-hoo, it's great to be working with you guys again.
It's New Zealand? It's been around a long time.
It has. Our old friends in New Zealand.
Yeah, new improved Zealand.
Right. And I'm just wondering why we aren't getting top billing here. It's taking a bit of a ways. To
Because we are some of the most humble people I've ever met. I'm very proud of how humble we are.
And we are helping here.
Yes, we are. Absolutely.
Got some fun little animation of Gary bouncing around, Easter eggs going,
and
funning
a
up
great
the credits.
Great show.
Great show.
And the song here
is, I don't know. We'll have to come clean here. We don't do the songs for the credits till the very end. It's in our final mix session.
Oh.
And so what we'll do is we'll take a number of the songs and we'll sort of form a montage.
Very nice.
And then we'll lay that into credits. And we just haven't done it yet. So we're just talking over blank
I
right
was just
now.
leading, I was leading you.
I'm just being upfront with the people here.
Wow. That is humble.
It's part of our process.
It's transparent.
It is transparent. Much like that name.
But you're
right
hearing
there. That name. That's a great.
But
person.
whatever song you're hearing right now, I'm sure it's wonderful. And
it's top notch.
It's probably Up with Bunnies because that's fun.
And we're
going to redo Up with Bunnies, and we might sometimes we throw a little silly song in there, a little Hopperina, because it's sort of Easter themed as well.
Well, and when we talked about the least favorite character, you know who does that person's voice? That name right there.
Right there.
That name right there.
Hopefully
if
we
you
can
weren't
time
paying
that
attention, you missed it.
And I hope everyone noticed passerby number 1.
That's right.
All right. Well, thank you everyone so much for listening to the commentary, and we hope you enjoyed the show.
Yes. Bye.